Chapter 430. Yi Siki glared at him. What do you mean by that? Am I not beautiful? Xiao Tianxing rested his chin on his left hand and smiled happily. Beautiful. You are very beautiful. But they think that I like the type of girls who are full of fans. As for you, you are slightly lacking. She was so angry that she almost vomited blood. She snorted coldly and turned her head to ignore him. Xiao Tianxing's smile widened. He said carelessly, "Are you angry?" "I'm just kidding. Your type is just right." He was afraid that she didn't understand, so he made an S sign with his hands. "I beg of you. Let's not talk about this anymore." Yi Siki was embarrassed and annoyed. She rolled her eyes at him. "President Xiao, don't you have anything better to do?" Xiao Tianxing raised his eyebrows. "Of course not. I heard that someone was scolded badly by Uncle Yu. As her boss and friend, I have the obligation to show my concern." Yi Siki shrugged. "Don't worry. My psychological endurance is not that bad." The elevator stopped. Xiao Tianxing brought her into his office. The bright sunlight shone through the floor-to-ceiling windows onto the thick carpet. A snow-white Persian cat was curled up on the soft sofa. When it heard someone come in, it raised its head lazily. Its beautiful eyes narrowed. Soon, it laid its head down and went back to sleep. Yi Siki said in surprise, "You have a pet in your office." "No one can stop me from enjoying life. To me, work is also a form of enjoyment." Xiao Tianxing poured 2 cups of handmade coffee. He placed 1 cup in front of her and the other in front of him. He held the Persian cat in his arms with one hand and gently rubbed its head. Yi Siki sighed. "My admiration for you is like a torrential river that flows endlessly." Xiao Tianxing chuckled. He took a sip of coffee. "How are things going with your family?" He guessed that her distraction from work might have something to do with her family. Yi Siki stroked the hair by her ear with an indifferent expression. Bai Mei Wei insisted on keeping the child. Shi Hao confessed everything to Director Bai, hoping that he could step in and stop Bai Mei Wei. But until now, he hasn't given an answer. "Do you think Dean Bai will force Bai Mei Wei to abort the child?" Xiao Tianxing leaned back on the sofa with a serious look on his face. Yi Siki smiled bitterly. "I've thought about this for a long time. I've been comforting myself that Dean Bai will force her to abort the child for the sake of Bai Mei Wei's reputation. But my conscience tells me that Dean Bai will very likely support his daughter to keep the child. After all, that child might be his daughter's only child. Which parent would dare to take such a big risk?" Xiao Tianxing's deep eyes moved. "Have you ever considered that Dean Bai actually has a third option? He can force Lin Shihao to marry his daughter. If he does that, what will you do?" Yi Siki was stunned. She really hadn't thought of this. Lin Shihao hadn't thought of this either. She held the coffee cup in a daze. Her fingers trembled slightly as she shook her head. "I don't know. I really don't know." Xiao Tianxing tightened his grip on the Persian cat. The cat meowed impatiently, and he slowly let go. He stroked its soft fur and said calmly, "If Bai Mei Wei insists on giving birth to the child, are you still willing to continue living with Lin Shihao?" Yi Siki wanted to put the coffee cup back on the coffee table, but when she heard what he said, she panicked and knocked over the coffee cup. The scalding coffee spilled onto the glass coffee table and slowly flowed onto the carpet. She quickly pulled out a tissue to wipe it off, but Xiao Tianxing suddenly leaned forward and grabbed her wrist. His voice was urgent. "Did you burn your hand?" "No." Yi Siki awkwardly tried to pull her right hand away. She looked anxiously at the pool of coffee. "Hurry up and let go of me. The coffee is going to spill onto the carpet." "Let me see the back of your hand." Xiao Tianxing couldn't help but let go of her hand. He pulled her wrist in front of him. There was a small red mark on the back of her fair hand. It was obvious that she had been scalded by the scalding coffee. His face darkened and his brows furrowed. He dragged her to the bathroom and complained, "You said you weren't scalded. Your skin is red. Do you know what's most important? You've already scalded yourself. Why do you care about the carpet?" Yi Siki was scolded by him until she couldn't raise her head. She retorted softly, "It only spilled 2 drops on the back of my hand. The temperature wasn't very high either. I'm really fine." Xiao Tianxing suddenly turned around and glared at her. "Can't you take care of yourself a little? As he spoke, he had already dragged her into the bathroom. As expected of a presidential suite, even the bathroom was incomparably luxurious. Xiao Tianxing turned on the tap and washed the back of her hand with cold water. He warned her with a sullen face, "I'm going out for a while. Continue to wash the back of your hand with cold water for at least 10 minutes. Got it." Yi Siki looked at his stern face and wanted to laugh. However, she was afraid of angering him, so she could only force herself to hold it in. Xiao Tianxing glared at her as a warning. Then he returned to his office and called his secretary over the internal line to send in a bottle of ointment for burns. As a 5-star hotel, they still had a stock of such ointment. Yi Siki stood obediently in front of the sink and washed the back of her hand with cold water. Xiao Tianxing suddenly walked in and placed a bottle of ointment on the sink. "It's about time. Apply this ointment to the back of your hand." "Thank you." Although Yi Siki didn't hear his conversation with his secretary, she understood his good intentions when she saw the ointment. Her heart was filled with gratitude. The conversation between them was interrupted by this small episode and did not continue. Yi Siki had disappeared for too long. It was time for her to go back to the kitchen and take a look. When she returned to the kitchen, Uncle Yu had just assigned a new task for her. She was busy with work and quickly forgot about her conversation with Xiao Tianxing. It wasn't until she received a phone call that night that she realized how far-sighted Xiao Tianxing was. At night, after Yi Siki coaxed her daughter to sleep, she returned to the bedroom. Lin Shihao was taking a shower in the bathroom when his phone on the bedside table rang. She hurried forward and picked up his phone. The caller ID showed that it was Director Bai. Her heart suddenly skipped a beat. She guessed that Director Bai was calling to talk to him about Bai Mei Wei. She hesitated whether to answer the call, but her fingers had already uncontrollably pressed the answer button. "Little Lin," Bai Jiao's weathered voice rang in her ear. She opened her mouth and was about to say that she wasn't Lin Shihao when Bai Jiao continued, "I've thought about it carefully these past few days. I still can't be ruthless. Mei Wei is my only daughter. I can't use her child as a stake." Yi Siki's uneasy heart fell to the bottom. Her limbs were cold and her fingers were trembling. She almost couldn't hold the phone. He continued, "Little Lin, you said that you let Mei Wei down and that you were willing to make up for it. I only have one request. Divorce your wife, marry my daughter, and take responsibility for her. If you agree to my request, I'll let this matter go. You'll still be the director of our hospital's obstetrics and gynecology department. If you don't agree to my request, we'll meet in court. Even if I have to throw away my old face, I'll get justice for my daughter." Yi Siki sat heavily on the bed. Her right hand loosened and the phone fell to the ground with a bang. Lin Shihao happened to come out of the bathroom. He glanced at Siki, who was sitting at the head of the bed in a daze, and then at the phone on the ground. He had a bad feeling in his heart. He quickly bent down to pick up the phone. The screen showed that he was on the phone with Director Bai. Director Bai said earnestly, "Little Lin, I've always thought highly of you and even groomed you as my successor. You can call me despicable or blame me for being ruthless, but I don't care. As a father, I just want my daughter to be happy." Lin Shihao didn't hear a single word he said. His mind was filled with guesses about what he had said to Siki. Lin Shihao said faintly, "Got it." Then he ended the call. He walked in front of Siki and asked, "Honey, what did Director Bai say to you over the phone just now?" Yi Siki looked up at him. Her face was pale and her expression was bitter. "He said that he wants you to divorce me and marry Bai Mei Wei. Otherwise, he'll take you to court." "Shihao, we've guessed many possible outcomes, but this was the only one we didn't think of. Tell me, what should we do?" Lin Shihao hugged her tightly and said in a low voice, "Honey, even if he takes me to court, even if I have to bear the legal responsibility, I won't divorce you." Yi Siki's nose was sour and her eyes were misty. She leaned against his chest and could hear his heart beating very fast and very frantically. His fingers pressed tightly against her back. It hurt a little, but this pain was nothing compared to the pain in his heart. They were now facing internal and external troubles and were besieged on all sides. She was hurt both physically and mentally and didn't know if she could still hold on. Lin Shihao knew very well what her silence meant. His arms tightened around her as if he wanted to squeeze her into his body. His voice was low and hoarse as he said, "Honey, tell me that you'll hold on with me." She bit her lip and tears silently flowed down her face. Even if the whole world spurns me, I won't give up on you. His chest rose and fell violently, and there were tears in his eyes. Yi Siki couldn't hold it in anymore. She hugged him and bawled. She didn't understand why God wanted to torture them like this. They were clearly two people in love, but they couldn't stay together properly. She hated it so much. She hated that woman who destroyed her family. She also hated herself. If she had a little sense of danger and had predicted that Bai Mei Wei was up to no good, perhaps they wouldn't have ended up like this today. Jiang Rulin heard about Bai Jiao's threat from Bai Mei Wei. After 2 days of careful consideration, she finally decided to sacrifice her daughter-in-law to protect her son. Her son still had a bright future. She couldn't just destroy it like this. As for Siki, although she also had feelings for her, compared with her son, it didn't seem so important. At worst, she would give her more compensation. Add Xinwu 799. Chapter 431. Moreover, Bai Mei Wei was pregnant with a son, which fulfilled her dream of having a grandson. Jiang Rulin was indeed a businesswoman. She was very calculative. However, Jiang Rulin still had some affection for Yi Siki. She couldn't harden her heart and force her to divorce her son. Instead, she persuaded her nicely that if she really loved Shihao, she should think about his future and his reputation. She couldn't ruin his life. Yi Siki knew what her mother-in-law was thinking. She pretended not to understand and kept silent. She had promised Lin Shihao that she would face it with him and persist until the end. Jiang Rulin couldn't persuade her the first time, so she tried a second time and a third time. Siki, you might not know, but Shihao has been having a hard time in the hospital. Bai Jiao is already pressuring him. If you don't divorce within a month, he will file a lawsuit with the court. Seeing that Mei Wei's belly is getting bigger and bigger, there are already rumors in the hospital. Shihao might not be able to keep his position as the head of the obstetrics and gynecology department. Every time, Jiang Rulin would bring new news. This news was all about how Lin Shihao was forced and tortured. Every time, Yi Siki pretended not to care. In fact, she was so upset that she wanted to cry. Lin Shihao had always kept these things from her and never told her. It was hard for her to imagine how a proud man like him could be mocked by others and deliberately made difficult for by his superiors, but he could only endure it. In front of her, he had to act as if nothing had happened. How much pain must his heart be in? The 1-month deadline was getting closer and closer. Yi Siki watched him leave early and return late every day. He was so busy that even if he hid it well, she could see a trace of fatigue and worry between his brows. Sometimes, he would come home in the wee hours of the morning with a faint smell of tobacco on his body. He thought she was asleep, but in fact, she had her back to him. She clenched her teeth and cried silently. In fact, not only were the Lin family suffering, but Bai Jiao also didn't feel good. Bai Jiao was a good doctor with noble medical ethics. He treated patients and saved people all his life. He didn't expect that when he was old, he would do such a disgraceful thing to force others. However, he only had one daughter. He couldn't watch her destroy herself. He had talked to his daughter before and knew that she had always liked Lin Shihao. He was a good man, but he was also a father. He wanted his daughter to be happy. In the last few days before the deadline, Bai Jiao made a private appointment with Yi Siki. He said, "Mrs. Lin, the child in Mei Wei's stomach is already more than 5 months old. I can't let her be ridiculed without any status. I hope you can divorce Lin Shihao as soon as possible." Yi Siki looked calmly at the kind-looking old man in front of her and said calmly, "Director Bai, I can't decide on a divorce alone." Bai Jiao sighed. "I won't hide it from you. Actually, I don't want to take Lin Shihao to court. That will only make both our families look bad. However, if he is determined to not give Mei Wei an explanation, I will continue to make a fuss even if I have to sacrifice my old face. Mrs. Lin, the only person who can turn this situation around is you. If you initiate a divorce, there is still a chance for things to turn around. You don't want to see your husband's reputation ruined, do you?" Everyone was forcing her, as if Lin Shihao's reputation was ruined because of her. But the funny thing was that even she was forcing herself. Because, just as they said, she didn't want to see his reputation ruined. Xia Dong returned from Rome. She had recovered from her serious illness, had a new daughter, and had reconciled with Bailey Han. Yi Siki was very happy for her, and the two of them agreed to go to the hot spring to catch up. While they were soaking in the hot spring, Xiaodong asked Yi Siki if she had been doing well for the past 6 months. "We might have to get a divorce." Yi Siki closed her eyes and said calmly. Only she knew the storm in her heart. Xiaodong approached her and asked, "Yezi, do you still love him?" She sniffled and almost cried. She said softly, "So what if I love him? Love can't withstand so much hurt. Xia, you don't know how tired I am. I'm really tired." She had been forced to a dead end by them and didn't want to persist any longer. At least this way, she could protect Lin Shihao. After leaving the hot spring resort, Xiaodong asked the driver, Old Chen, to send Yi Siki home first. After the two of them hugged and said goodbye, Yi Siki held the gift Xiaodong had brought back from abroad and stood at the intersection. She smiled and waved as she watched the car drive away. The closer she got to home, the fainter the joy of reuniting with her good friend after a long separation faded until it completely disappeared. Her empty heart was filled with sadness. Today was Saturday. Lin Shihao had been called to the hospital to work overtime. To him, there were no days off now. Nyo was doing her homework in her room. When she heard the door open, the little girl immediately turned around and smiled in surprise. "Mommy, you're back. Did Auntie Xia buy me a gift?" Yi Siki smiled. "I didn't expect our Nyo to have the ability to predict the future. Here, this is from your Auntie Xia. She placed several beautifully wrapped boxes in her arms on her daughter's bed. Nyo cheered happily. She put down her pen, ran to the bedside, and happily opened the gift boxes. The first box contained a beautiful white princess dress, and the second box contained a Barbie doll. "Wow, it's so beautiful. I love it." Nyo jumped up and down happily. Yi Siki looked at her innocent and cute daughter and felt a wave of sadness in her heart. Although she had already decided to divorce, she couldn't bring herself to say it to her daughter. The doorbell rang. Yi Siki quickly wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and smiled. "Nyo, we have guests. Mommy will open the door. You stay in the room and call Auntie Xia to thank her for the gift." Okay. Yi Siki opened the door to see Jiang Rulin standing at the door with an unfriendly expression. She smiled. "Mom, you're here." Jiang Rulin changed her shoes and walked straight to the living room without looking at her. She grumbled unhappily, "The deadline is almost up. Are you determined to send Shihao to jail?" Yi Siki clenched her fists. "Mom, let's talk in the bedroom." She was worried that her daughter would come out of the room and overhear their conversation. Jiang Rulin glanced at Nyo's room. She didn't say anything and followed her into the master bedroom. Yi Siki poured her a cup of tea and sat in the chair opposite her. She bit her lip and said unhurriedly, "Mom, I agree to divorce Shihao, but I have a condition." When Jiang Rulin heard this, her expression softened and her tone became much gentler. "Tell me. I can give you the car and the house." Yi Siki shook her head. "I don't want any of these things. I just want Nyo's custody." Jiang Rulin's expression changed slightly. "You're a woman. What ability do you have to support Nyo? Nyo can live a better life with her father. As long as you give up Nyo's custody, I'll satisfy you no matter how much compensation you want." Yi Siki looked into her eyes and said calmly, "No amount of money can bring back my daughter. I don't want anything. I just want my daughter." Jiang Rulin frowned. "Since you don't want anything, how are you going to support Nyo? Yi Siki's lips curled. "With my current monthly salary, it won't be difficult to support Nyo and me." Jiang Rulin counted with her fingers and said, "Don't think of things as so simple. Housing, travel, daily necessities, and the child's education and clothes. Which of these doesn't need money? Nyo is my biological granddaughter. I'll provide her with better education and living conditions. You can't provide her with these things. Siki, even if it's for Nyo's sake, you should let her live with her father." "Mom, you don't have to persuade me anymore. I've already made up my mind. If you don't agree to my request, then I can't divorce Shihao." Yi Siki smiled faintly. "Mom, don't be too greedy. You can only choose between your son and your granddaughter." She had already done a lot of multiple choice questions. It was time for them to do the multiple choice questions. Zhang Rulin's expression was ugly. Her fingers gripped the armrest of the chair tightly. After a long silence, she finally compromised and said, "It's fine if you don't want the house and car. I'll give you 200,000. This money is for Nyo-Nyo's custody. If you need money, you can look for me any time." Perhaps this was the only way to ease her conscience. Yi Siki said, "Okay." She wouldn't take the initiative to fight for these things, but if they were willing to give it to her, she wouldn't refuse because she and the child had to live. Then when are you going to get a divorce? There were only 2 days left until the deadline set by Jiao. I'll prepare the divorce agreement today. The Civil Affairs Bureau isn't open on the weekend. We'll go get the divorce certificate next Monday. Zhang Rulin sighed. Siki, to be honest, I remember all the good you've done for me and Shihao all these years. It's indeed my fault for finding trouble with you sometimes. I'm a narrow-minded person with an impatient temper. Please don't take it to heart if I've said anything that hurt you to heart. If I wasn't forced, I wouldn't want to be some evil mother-in-law and drive a wedge between you two. Yi Siki smiled faintly. Mom, I know. Don't worry, I won't blame you. I can only blame myself for not being fated to be with Shihao. Zhang Rulin held her hand and tightened it. Her eyes reddened slightly. Siki, Mom has let you down. Yi Siki smiled. It's okay, Mom. I won't be able to visit you often in the future. Take care of yourself. As she wished, her daughter-in-law agreed to the divorce. Zhang Rulin didn't feel happy. Instead, she felt a little sad. To be honest, Siki was a good daughter-in-law, but it was a pity that they weren't fated to be together. When Zhang Rulin left, her eyes were red, but Yi Siki didn't shed a single tear. Since they were going to break up, they should do it cleanly. She prepared the divorce agreement and signed her name on it. She planned to tell Lin Shihao about the divorce tomorrow. Come and see. Song Shu 566. Chapter 432. Lin Shihao worked until late into the night before returning home. He opened the door and found Yi Siki sitting on the sofa waiting for him. He quickly changed his shoes and walked over to her. His voice was slightly hoarse as he said, "Honey, didn't I tell you not to wait for me? Are you tired?" Yi Siki pursed her lips and smiled. She moved closer to him and wrapped her arms around his waist, hugging him tightly. His body still carried the chill of the night. His handsome brows relaxed and a gentle smile appeared in his deep eyes. He kissed her hair gently. She leaned on his chest and listened to his deep and powerful heartbeat. Her heart ached, but she had a faint smile on her face. "Hubby, are you hungry? I made supper for you." He placed his broad palm on her waist and laughed deeply. "I wasn't hungry at first, but now that you mention it, I'm suddenly a little hungry." She looked up and kissed his thin chin. "Take a shower first. I'll heat up the supper." "Okay." He ruffled her hair and smiled affectionately. By the time Yi Siki brought out the supper, he had already taken a shower and changed into white home clothes. The gentle light made him look even more handsome, gentle and elegant. His chiseled face was even thinner and there was a faint smile on his thin lips. He quietly watched her walk towards him from afar. She had made him oatmeal, which had the effect of dispelling his restlessness and promoting sleep. The porridge was very fragrant and soft. After drinking half a bowl of porridge, his entire stomach felt warm and even his tired body seemed to relax a lot. She quietly nestled in his arms and listened to the ticking sound of the clock on the wall. Her heart was filled with desolation. If only time could stop at this moment forever, how good would that be? She hugged his waist with both hands and slowly closed her eyes. She used her heart to feel the warmth of his body and listen to his heartbeat. She greedily breathed in the unique faint fragrance on his body. She wanted to engrave all of this in her mind because after tomorrow, he would no longer belong to her. Lin Shihao thought she had fallen asleep and smiled gently. He then carried her up and placed her on the bed. The moment he touched the bed, Yi Siki uneasily opened her eyes and hugged him even tighter in a panic. "Don't be afraid. I'm here." Seeing her uneasy gaze, Lin Shihao's heart ached. He took the opportunity to lie beside her and pull her into his arms. Yi Siki couldn't sleep the whole night. She heard his steady breathing and knew that he had fallen asleep. She reached out her hand and stroked his well-defined cheek. It didn't matter that she couldn't see his face clearly in the dark night. She had already used her fingers to engrave him in her heart. The next morning, when Lin Shihao woke up, Yi Siki had already prepared breakfast. When he came out of the bedroom, she was wearing an apron and was busy in the kitchen. She turned her head and smiled brightly at him. "Hubby, you can have breakfast after washing up." He smiled and felt a little distressed. "Why don't you sleep a little longer? I want to watch you go to work." She washed her hands and brought the breakfast to the table. She urged him, "Hurry up and wash up. The breakfast will be cold later." Lin Shihao was about to go to work. Yi Siki wrapped a scarf around him and kissed him on the lips. Then she hugged him. "Hubby, go to work. I'll miss you." "Honey, I'll miss you too." Lin Shihao kissed her forehead and reluctantly let go of her. If he knew that this was their farewell kiss, he definitely wouldn't have left. Yi Siki stood in the corridor and watched him enter the elevator. The elevator door slowly closed and his handsome figure disappeared. She silently turned around and locked the door, crying silently. Yesterday afternoon, she had already rented a small 2-bedroom apartment near the company. It cost her half a month's salary. There was a bed, a wardrobe, a washing machine, an air conditioner, and other appliances. She only needed to bring her suitcase in and she could move in. After Nyo finished breakfast, Yi Siki squatted in front of her and said softly, "Nyo, from today onwards, you and Mommy will move out, okay?" Nyo's beautiful big eyes widened. "Why? Is Daddy coming with us?" "No, it's just the two of us. Daddy will still live here." With every word she said, her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Nyo was stunned and suddenly burst into tears. "Mommy, why are you two living separately? Are you getting a divorce? Is it because Grandma doesn't like me, so she wants you to divorce Daddy?" Yi Siki's heart ached. She hugged her daughter tightly. "Nyo, Daddy and Mommy are divorcing not because Grandma doesn't like you." "Why? Why are you getting a divorce?" "I don't want you to get a divorce. Mommy, don't divorce, okay?" Nyo cried and looked up at her pitifully with her big wet eyes. She kept begging her. "Mommy, don't divorce. Nyo, listen to Mommy." Yi Siki held her daughter's tear-stained face and coaxed her gently. "Even if Daddy and Mommy divorce, you're still our Xiao Bao. We'll still love you like before. You can come back to see Daddy often." "No, I don't want to. I don't want you two to be separated." Nyo cried until she was out of breath. Her little face was red and her little chest was heaving violently. Her heartbroken look made Yi Siki's heart ache to the extreme. Yi Siki hugged her daughter and coaxed her. She tried to persuade her, but she couldn't persuade her to accept reality. Time passed, and the people from the moving company would soon come to help her move the luggage. However, Nyo was still throwing a tantrum in her arms and refused to leave. Yi Siki had no choice but to harden her heart. She held her daughter's tender shoulders and said in a hoarse voice, "Nyo, if you don't want to leave with Mommy, then stay here with Daddy." Her daughter had been closer to her since she was young and relied on her more. When she heard her words, she immediately panicked and cried loudly. She hugged her tightly and refused to let go. "Nyo, Mommy also can't bear to leave your Daddy. However, if Mommy continues to be with Daddy, he will become a criminal and even go to jail. Do you want to see Daddy go to jail?" Yi Siki felt that she was being extremely cruel to force Nyo to accept these very realistic things. Nyo didn't quite understand. Although she didn't know why Daddy would go to jail if her parents were together, she didn't want Daddy to become a criminal. Therefore, she cried bitterly for a long time and made a racket for a long time. In the end, she accepted this reality. When Yi Siki carried her daughter and left the home that they had lived in for 7 years, she and Nyo both shed tears at the same time. Nyo's eyes were swollen like walnuts. She leaned on her shoulder and didn't say a word. She just cried silently. The moving company moved their luggage to their new home. Nyo's new bedroom was much smaller than the previous one. She sat silently on the bed and hugged the teddy bear that Daddy gave her for Christmas. She secretly wiped away her tears. Yi Siki forced herself to stay awake and tidied up their luggage in the living room. She looked up and saw her daughter's thin and small back. Her heart ached. Their divorce was a huge blow to her daughter. She would love her daughter even more in the future and slowly heal the hurt in her heart. A melodious ringtone sounded. It was Xiao Tianxing. Do you have time? Come out for a cup of coffee? Yi Siki looked up at her daughter and quickly walked into her bedroom. She lowered her voice and said, I'm unpacking my luggage now. I don't have time. Unpacking your luggage? What are you doing? Are you going out to relax again? No. She paused. Nyo and I moved out. I'm planning to get a divorce. Xiao Tianxing was silent for 2 seconds. Are you serious? She nodded. I've already left the divorce agreement with him. Xiao Tianxing frowned and said in a deep voice, Tell me the address. I'll go to your place. Yi Siki gripped her phone uncomfortably. Why are you coming? My place is a mess. I haven't tidied it up yet. Xiao Tianxing sounded impatient. Don't think too much. I'm worried about Nyo. Tell me the address. The corners of Yi Siki's mouth twitched helplessly. In the end, she told him her address. She had just tidied up her and Nyo's clothes, took a mop, and was about to clean when the doorbell rang. Xiao Tiancheng was wearing a black coat, standing tall and handsome at the door. After he entered the door, he walked around as if he had returned to his own home. Finally, he smacked his lips. It's passable. It's just a little small. How big is the place for just the 2 of us to live in? Yi Siki was a little speechless. Okay, you do what you need to do. I'll go see Nyo. Xiao Tiansheng waved his hand and left her behind. He went straight to Nyo's room. Nyo had heard someone coming, but she was still immersed in her sadness and didn't want to talk to anyone. She sat on the bed in a daze, holding a big furry bear in her arms. Xiao Tianxing stood at the door and felt his heart ache when he saw her lonely little figure. After 2 seconds of silence, his lips curled up into a bright smile. He said in a light tone, Little Nyo, Uncle Xiao is here. Long time no see. Did you miss me? He squatted in front of Nyo and realized that her eyes were swollen like peaches. There were still traces of tears on her fair little face. Her chest was rising and falling slightly as she suppressed her sobs. Her little nose was red from rubbing, like a cute chili. His heart ached as if it was being pricked by needles. He rubbed her soft hair lovingly and said softly, Nyo, Uncle Xiao will take you out to play, okay? Nyo didn't say anything. Her long eyelashes fluttered slightly and bean-sized tears rolled down again. Nyo, be good. Don't cry. Uncle Xiao, who had always been sharp-tongued, felt that he was at a loss for words for the first time. He didn't know how to make the little girl happy, so he could only hug her and gently pat her back. He said over and over again, Be good. Don't cry. Xiao Tianxing didn't know if it was because his embrace was too similar to Lin Shihao's embrace or because she was tired from crying. After maintaining this position for half an hour, he suddenly realized that she had fallen asleep. Her little head was tightly pressed against his chest. A pair of tender little hands were firmly grabbing his clothes. This was a sign of insecurity. Add Hongcha 866. Chapter 433. After Yi Siki finished cleaning, she walked to Nyo's room and found Xiao Tianxing sitting stiffly on the bed with a sleeping Nyo in his arms. She lowered her voice and said, Put the child down. Aren't you tired carrying her like this? Xiao Tianxing also lowered his voice. I'm not tired. I'm afraid that I'll wake her up if I move. Yi Siki then noticed that Nyo was clutching his clothes with both hands. She roughly estimated that he had been in this position for at least an hour. How could he not be tired? She thought for a moment and said softly, You should put her on the bed. Nyo is sleeping soundly. She won't wake up. Shoo! Xiao Tianxing was afraid that she would wake Nyo up, so he gave her a look and said softly, I'm hungry. Go and cook. Yi Siki was a little touched when she saw that he was persevering so hard and refusing to give up. She shook her head and didn't try to persuade him anymore. She walked into the kitchen and prepared to cook. Suddenly, she realized that they had just moved in and didn't even have kitchen utensils. Xiao Tianxing noticed that Yi Siki had returned to Nyo's room. He lifted his chin and asked her with his eyes, What's the matter? She shrugged helplessly and said softly, We don't have kitchen utensils. Let's order takeout for lunch today. He raised his eyebrows and didn't object. Yi Siki found a restaurant with good reviews online and called to order takeout. Then she continued to tidy up the room. Nyo slept until the takeout arrived. She rubbed against Xiao Tianqing's arms in a daze and called out, "Daddy," softly. Xiao Tianqing's heart trembled. A thought popped up in his mind. It would be great if such an adorable child was his daughter. Niu didn't hear a response. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked up to see Xiao Tianqing. She blinked her slightly red and swollen eyes. "Uncle Xiao. It's me, Niu. Did you sleep enough?" Xiao Tianqing smiled and rubbed her hair. She nodded in a daze. "Then let's go eat now. Your mommy has ordered a lot of your favorite dishes." Xiao Tianqing stood up with her in his arms and walked to the living room. At the dinner table, Xiao Tianqing told a lot of jokes to make Niu happy. Niu finally smiled. Yi Siki looked at him gratefully. He raised his eyebrows proudly and looked very arrogant. Yi Siki was also amused by his childish expression. After eating and resting for a while, Yi Siki planned to go shopping at the supermarket. She had already made a long list, and Xiao Tianqing insisted on going with them. There were many people in the supermarket. Most of them were there to buy New Year goods. Xiao Tianqing pushed the shopping cart while Yi Siki held Niu's hand. At first glance, they looked like a family of three. Yi Siki stood in front of the shelves with Niu. When choosing goods, she always smiled and asked for Niu's opinion. She deliberately teased her to interact with her so that she could pull her out of her sad mood. "Niu, look at this pillow. Isn't it cute?" Yi Siki picked up a tanuki pillow and waved her arms with a smile. "Do you like it? If you like it, we'll buy it." Niu puffed up her cheeks and blinked her big eyes. She pointed at the pillow on the shelf with her pink finger. "I like the Easy Bear pillow." "Okay, then we'll buy the Easy Bear." Yi Siki put down the tanuki and picked up the Easy Bear pillow. She handed it to her daughter and smiled. "Niu, help mommy carry it, okay?" Niu nodded and obediently followed her mother with the Easy Bear pillow. Her attention was gradually attracted by the dazzling array of goods. In addition, Xiao Tianqing deliberately made her happy, so she temporarily forgot about her sadness. Pots, pans, and daily necessities. The things they bought almost filled the trunk of Xiao Tianqing's car. He worked hard without complaint, carrying several shopping bags on his shoulders and finally sending the mother and daughter upstairs. After they finished packing, it was already past 5 in the afternoon. Yi Siki smiled at Xiao Tianqing and said, "Thank you for your hard work today. Let me treat you to a meal. I know a good restaurant nearby." Xiao Tianqing shrugged. "Okay, I'm hungry too." After the meal, Yi Siki called the waiter to pay the bill. The waiter looked at Xiao Tianqing and smiled. "Madam, your husband has already paid the bill." Xiao Tianqing's lips curved, but he didn't explain further. "Madam? Sir? What did this have to do with anything?" Yi Siki was both embarrassed and amused. She explained, "You've misunderstood. I'm friends with this gentleman." The waiter quickly apologized. "I'm sorry, I made a mistake." "I'm very sorry." "It's okay." After the waiter left, Yi Siki complained, "Didn't we agree that it was my treat? Why did you secretly pay the bill?" Xiao Tianqing raised his eyebrows. "I've never let a woman pay the bill." Yi Siki was speechless. "You're such a male chauvinist," he chuckled. "This is called gentlemanly behavior." On the way home, Niu fell asleep in Yi Siki's arms. Xiao Tianqing looked sideways at the mother and daughter and whispered, "It's almost the spring festival. Are you planning to spend it with the child alone?" Yi Siki felt a tinge of bitterness in her heart. She said calmly, "If it's just the two of us, wouldn't it be too lonely? There's no need for a divorced woman to make herself so miserable. I'm planning to bring Niu back to my parents' home for the spring festival. It's just that I haven't thought of how to tell my parents about the divorce. It's better to deal with the pain quickly than to prolong it. It's better to tell them sooner." Xiao Tianqing's deep eyes had a tinge of pity. "They're your parents. I think they'll understand you. I just don't want them to worry about me. Ever since I was young, they've always worried about me. I thought that after getting married, their lives would be easier." Her tone carried a hint of tiredness and sadness. "In our parents' eyes, we'll always be children." Xiao Tianqing chuckled. "Just like you. When you're 60 years old, Niu will already be a parent. In your heart, she'll still be your child, right?" She smiled. That's true. No matter how old Nyonyo is, in my heart, she'll always be a little girl who needs my protection. He smiled. If you don't want your parents to worry, then let them know that you're living well. Divorce isn't the end of life. It's the beginning of a new life. Siki, you're a very strong woman. You can do it. Her eyes welled up. I can do it. Xiao Tianxing sent the mother and daughter home. Before he left, he nagged her to lock the door and close the windows. She nodded repeatedly. He was still worried, so he took her phone and set his phone number to 1. Then he returned the phone to her. I've already set my number to speed dial. If there's anything, feel free to contact me. I know. Hurry home. It's cold and the roads are dark. Drive carefully. He smiled. If I don't leave, you'll push me out of the door, won't you? She was embarrassed. No way. I just don't want to waste any more of your time. His smile widened. He suddenly took a step forward and pulled her into his arms. He hugged her tightly and whispered in her ear, "Take care of yourself and Nyonyo. Good night." Her face was burning hot. She reached out to push him away, but he had already let go of her. He raised his eyebrows and left happily. She was amused and angry at the same time. He finally left. She was the only one left in the empty living room. She glanced at Nyonyo's room and suddenly felt a little sad. She hugged her knees and sat on the sofa in a daze. She didn't know how long she had been sitting there in a daze. Her phone suddenly rang. Her body trembled and she snapped back to her senses. She glanced at the caller ID and her heart jumped. Shihao. She pressed the answer button and went back to her bedroom. When Lin Shihao came home from work, he realized that Yi Siki and Nyonyo were gone. Their clothes and daily necessities were also gone. He immediately had a bad feeling. He was so nervous that his heart almost stopped beating. His fingers trembled as he dialed Yi Siki's number. When he heard her familiar voice on the other end of the phone, he gripped the phone tightly and tried to control his emotions. Honey, where did you and Nyonyo go? When are you coming back? Yi Siki's eyes glistened with tears. She said slowly, Shihao, I left a divorce agreement on the bedside table on the right. I've already signed it. Take some time tomorrow and we'll go and settle the divorce procedures. Lin Shihao quickly ran to the bedside table and opened the bedside table. Indeed, there was a divorce agreement lying inside. The blood in his body seemed to have stopped flowing. His whole body was icy cold. His chest rose and fell rapidly. He clenched his fists tightly. His deep eyes were surging with shocking anger. I don't agree to the divorce. You promised me that you would stay with me until the end. Yi Siki, how dare you lie to me? Yi Siki's eyelashes fluttered. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She tried her best to calm her voice. Shihao, I'm sorry. I can't take it anymore. Bai Meiwei's child is almost 6 months old. I can't accept another woman's child calling you daddy. So, let's get a divorce. Her words were like a basin of cold water that instantly extinguished his burning anger. He took 2 steps back and slammed heavily against the wall. His back was almost numb from the pain. She had once said that if Bai Meiwei insisted on giving birth to the child, she would leave with Nyonyo. She wasn't just saying it. She really couldn't accept it. Yet, he was forcing her to accept this reality. Was he too cruel? There was dead silence on the phone. Yi Siki started to feel uneasy. She softly called out his name. Shihao. Lin Shihao felt as if someone had opened a big hole in his chest. The cold wind blew into his chest, causing him to shiver from the cold. He gritted his teeth hard and said in a low and hoarse voice, I won't agree to the divorce. I won't agree to it even if I die. Yi Siki bit her lip and held back her sobs. She slowly said, Lin Shihao, let me go. Don't make me hate you. Lin Shihao's eyes were red. He stared fixedly at their wedding photo on the wall and said slowly, then hate me. Even if she hated him, he didn't want to let her go. She was his wife. She would be his forever. Attention, Hongcha 866. Chapter 434. Yi Siki's face was covered in tears. Her voice trembled as she said, Why are you doing this? Don't you know that I don't love you anymore? I'll wait for you at the Civil Affairs Bureau at 9 tomorrow morning. After saying this, she immediately hung up the phone and started to cry bitterly. She didn't dare to cry too loudly for fear of waking her daughter up. She covered her mouth with both hands and her chest tightened as if it was about to explode. She felt so uncomfortable that she couldn't even breathe properly. Lin Shihao still had a lot to say to her, but before he could ask her where she and Nyonyo were staying, she hung up the phone. He quickly dialed her number again, but her phone was turned off. Lin Shihao's emotions were extremely complicated. Anger and heartache intertwined together and made him feel suffocated. He was like a violent lion as he punched the wall with all his might. The veins on the back of his hand were throbbing and his knuckles were turning white. His tall and straight body was trembling from his anger. The sudden burst of coldness in his eyes made one shudder in fear. Yi Siki specially took a day off to prepare for the divorce. She sat in the lobby of the Civil Affairs Bureau and waited for more than an hour, but Lin Shihao didn't show up. She took out her phone and dialed his number. After 3 or 4 rings, the call went through. She said softly, "Shihao, I'm waiting for you at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Come over quickly." She didn't know that Lin Shihao was standing outside the Civil Affairs Bureau and looking at her through the glass door. His thin lips were pursed and his expression was cold. His voice was cold as he said, "I said before that I won't agree to the divorce. You don't have to wait for me anymore. No matter how long you wait, I won't appear." She frowned. "Shihao, don't be like this." Beep beep. He had already hung up the phone. Yi Siki sat there in a daze. She held the phone in her hand and her heart was in a mess. He knew that the marriage couldn't be maintained. So why did he persist? Wasn't he afraid that his reputation would be ruined? She sat there in a daze and didn't know what to do. Although she hadn't gotten the divorce certificate yet, she should tell Bai Jiao that they were about to divorce so that he would give up the idea of suing Lin Shihao. Thinking of this, she immediately called Bai Jiao. "Dean Bai, let me tell you, Shihao and I have decided to divorce. We are going through the divorce procedures." "I understand. I'll deal with it. Mrs. Lin, I'm very sorry that things have come to this." Yi Siki smirked and said calmly, "I'm no longer Mrs. Lin. Your daughter will become the new Mrs. Lin." Bai Jiao paused. "I'm sorry." Her tone was very calm. "There's no need to apologize. I just hope that you will keep your promise and not embarrass him anymore." "I will." Lin Shihao stood outside the glass door and stared at her back. He saw her sitting there in a daze for a long time. He saw her making a call. He saw her putting her phone away and picking up her handbag to leave. He quickly hid behind the stone pillar. She walked to the side of the road and hailed a taxi. He quickly ran to his car and got in. His eyes followed the taxi closely. Yi Siki's original plan was to go through the divorce procedures in the morning, and then take Nyonyo back to her parents' home to tell them about her divorce. Now that the divorce had not been finalized and she didn't want to waste this day of vacation, she decided to take the child back to her parents' home. The taxi drove her directly into the neighborhood and stopped under the building where she lived. "Thank you, sir." Yi Siki took the change from the driver and turned to go upstairs. She didn't notice Lin Shihao's car following her into the neighborhood. Yi Siki opened the door and saw Nyonyo hugging the stuffed bear and watching cartoons on the sofa. She smiled. "Nyonyo, we're going to Grandma's house today. Hurry up and get changed." Nyonyo replied with an "oh." She put the stuffed bear on the sofa and went back to her room to get changed. At this moment, the doorbell rang. Yi Siki looked through the peephole and her heart tightened. It was Lin Shihao. How did he find this place? "Honey, open the door. I know you're inside." When Lin Shihao walked into the corridor, he realized that the elevator had already gone up and stopped on the 5th floor. He guessed that Siki lived on the 5th floor. There were 2 families living on the 5th floor. He had already knocked on the door of the opposite house. There was an old lady living inside, so he concluded that Siki lived in this house. Yi Siki gritted her teeth. She decided to pretend that there was no one in the house and refused to open the door for him. Lin Shihao's heart was burning with anger. He was too lazy to press the doorbell. He knocked on the door loudly and shouted, "Yi Siki, if you don't open the door for me, I'll keep knocking." Yi Siki covered her ears with both hands and thought to herself, "I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything. Mommy, is Daddy knocking on the door?" Nyonyo came out after changing her clothes. When she heard the knocking, a surprised smile immediately appeared on her little face. Yi Siki's expression was very ugly. She shook her head and said, "No, Nyonyo, you heard wrong." Just as she finished speaking, Lin Shihao shouted again, "Yi Siki, open the door for me." Nyonyo pouted and said, "It's obviously Daddy's voice. Mommy, why don't you open the door for Daddy?" Yi Siki was very helpless. She didn't know how to answer her. "Nyonyo, you're inside, right? Daddy is here. Good girl. Hurry up and open the door for Daddy." Since one path didn't work, Lin Shihao tried another. "Daddy, I'm here. I'll open the door for you right away." Nyonyo ran to the door excitedly. Yi Siki hugged her waist and lifted her off the ground, preventing her from opening the door. Nyonyo struggled to move her little body, trying to struggle out of her embrace. However, her arms were wrapped tightly around her. Nyonyo was anxious and sad. She burst into tears and said, "Mommy, what are you doing? Why won't you open the door for Daddy? I miss Daddy so much. Mommy is bad. Mommy is a bad person." Nyonyo's tears kept falling. She wiped the tears on her face with the back of her soft hand, looking very pitiful. Yi Siki's heart ached. The man outside was still shouting and yelling for her to open the door. She was annoyed and confused. In the end, she compromised with the father and daughter pair and opened the door with Nyonyo in her arms. As soon as the door opened, Nyonyo immediately stretched out her arms towards Lin Shihao and cried, "Daddy, I missed you so much." Lin Shihao didn't allow any explanation and snatched Nyonyo from Yi Siki's arms. He hugged her tightly and kissed her cheek. "Nyonyo, be good. Daddy is here. Daddy missed you too." Nyonyo lay in his arms and cried sadly. She sobbed and said, "Daddy, don't divorce, okay? I don't want to be separated from you. We won't divorce. Daddy and Mommy will never divorce. Be good, Nyonyo. Don't cry anymore. You're making Daddy's heart ache." Lin Shihao carried his daughter to the living room and coaxed her gently. Yi Siki closed the door. With her back facing the father and daughter pair, she secretly wiped away the tears at the corners of her eyes. Lin Shihao hugged his daughter and comforted her patiently. After making his daughter happy, he kissed her cheek and said gently, "Nyonyo, Daddy and Mommy have something to talk about. Go back to your room and do your homework first, okay?" "Okay," she smiled sweetly and kissed him back on the cheek. She jumped out of his arms and onto the floor and walked towards her room. Lin Shihao smiled as he watched her petite figure disappear into the distance. After walking for some distance, she suddenly turned around and stared at Yi Siki with her big beautiful eyes. She puffed up her cheeks and said angrily, "Mommy, you can't chase Daddy out when I'm not paying attention." Yi Siki pursed her lips helplessly. "I know. I won't." She grinned and smiled brightly. "Then I'm relieved. I'm going back to my room." Seeing her skipping back to her room, Yi Siki and Lin Shihao felt very sad. 2 days ago, their daughter was still Wu Yu's carefree little girl. But now, she was so sensible that it made their heart ache. Yi Siki poured a cup of tea and placed it in front of Lin Shihao. Then, she sat across from him and pursed her lips, remaining silent. Lin Shihao's deep gaze fell on her body. He hadn't seen her for a day, but it felt like he hadn't seen her for a year. He missed her so much that his heart ached. Last night, he lay alone on the large bed that belonged to them and couldn't sleep the entire night. He hugged her pillow in his arms and it emitted a faint lemon scent. It was the scent of the shampoo they were used to using. There was also a faint scent of her on the quilt. He was surrounded by her scent, and his longing for her didn't lessen at all. Instead, he missed her even more. His burning gaze made her feel uncomfortable. She lowered her eyes and stroked the short hair by her ear, trying to say something to break the heavy atmosphere. "How did you know I live here?" She tucked her hair behind her ear, revealing her pink and small ears and half of her fair neck. His deep gaze followed her movements and became increasingly passionate. He clenched his fingers slightly and said in a deep voice, "I've been outside the Civil Affairs Bureau the entire time. I followed your taxi and found this place." Yi Siki widened her eyes in surprise and looked up at him. "Since you're at the Civil Affairs Bureau, why didn't you come out to see me?" "Because I don't want to divorce you. Don't mention divorce again in the future." Lin Shihao's obsidian-like eyes surged with pain. His voice was low and slow with a hint of pleading. "Wifey, I know I've broken your heart. I also know you can't accept that child. But I love you. I really can't leave you. Let's start over, okay? We're already done. There's no way to start over. Yi Siki gritted her teeth and forced herself to say something ruthless. Lin Shihao suddenly stood up. She was shocked and didn't know what he wanted to do. In the next second, he was already sitting beside her and hugging her tightly in his arms. His voice was low. Wifey, let's leave a city and go somewhere else. We can definitely start over. She bitterly tugged at the corner of her lips. Can we leave? Our parents are all here, and your career is also here. He hugged her even tighter. My career is far less important to me than you and Nyonyo. As for our parents, as long as we have the heart, we can take care of them no matter how far they are. Let's go to Sea City. That's where we went to university. Don't you like that city a lot? He described the future so beautifully that she was almost moved. Beauty novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 435. He described the future to be so beautiful that she was almost moved. However, reality was reality. The difficulties in front of them were like an abyss. If they weren't careful, they would fall to the bottom and not even their bones would be left. She didn't want him to be punished by the law, nor did she want him to lose his reputation. She didn't even want to tell him the real reason for the divorce because she didn't want to hurt his pride. She leaned into his embrace and listened to his strong heartbeat. She slowly closed her eyes and said softly, "We can't go back. No matter where we go, we can't go back to the past. We haven't tried yet. How do you know we can't? Wife, give our feelings one more chance." His arm tightened around her waist. "I'm sorry. I have no choice." She bit her lip and said slowly, "I don't love you anymore." "You're lying. You clearly love me. You want to force me to divorce, so you're saying that on purpose." Lin Shihao suddenly held her shoulders and stared at her with his sharp eyes. "I'm not lying. I'm telling the truth. I don't love you anymore." His eyes suddenly changed. Shock, pain, like a sudden storm, shrouded him heavily. She looked at his sorrowful expression and her chest felt uncomfortable, but she calmly met his gaze. He slowly let go of her shoulders and leaned heavily against the sofa. He didn't speak for a long time. "Shihao, let's let go of each other." She wanted to touch his cold face with her fingers, but she restrained herself. "You want to leave me that badly?" His eyes were as dark as the sea and filled with pain. "Yes." That simple and powerful word was like a sharp knife that stabbed into his heart. His face was ashen and his entire body emitted a cold and furious aura. He stared into her eyes and said word by word, "If you want me to let go, I'll have to die." He angrily slammed the door and left. If he stayed for a second longer, he might not be able to control himself and hurt her. Like a wild beast, he suddenly left. The door closed with a bang. She suddenly trembled. Her hands covered her cheeks, allowing her tears to flow through the gaps between her fingers. Nyonyo came out of the room and found out that Daddy had left. She cried and made a fuss. Yi Siki lied to her, saying that she and Lin Shihao would not divorce and that they were only living separately temporarily. It was not easy to make her daughter happy. According to the original plan, Yi Siki brought her daughter back to her parents' home. After sending her daughter away, she confessed to her parents about the impending divorce. Zhou Rongfang and Yi Weiliang were both shocked and upset. Zhou Rongfang advised her, "Siki, think about it again. Even if it's for Nyonyo, you can't make such a hasty decision." "Mom, I have no other choice. If I don't get a divorce, Bai Jiyao will sue Shihao in court. I really can't watch him go to jail and be ridiculed by others." Despair raged between her eyebrows. Zhou Rongfang opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end, she didn't say anything. Yi Weiliang was silent for a moment and said in a low voice, "Have you asked for Shihao's opinion? He might not mind going to jail." "It's precisely because he doesn't mind that I can't push him into the fire pit." Bai Jiyao knew that we were preparing for a divorce, so he agreed to let Shihao go. "I don't want to waste all my previous efforts." Zhou Rongfang wiped her tears. Yi Weiliang smoked non-stop. Ever since Nyonyo was born, he had quit smoking, saying that he didn't want his granddaughter to inhale his secondhand smoke. Now, because of his daughter's divorce, he felt terrible and took out the cigarettes that were meant for guests to smoke. Yi Siki didn't want them to be sad. Instead, She smiled and comforted them. She snatched the cigarette from Yi Weiliang's hand and threw it into the trash can. She said, "Dad, Mom, don't worry about me. I have a job now and a daughter. It's pretty good, really." Zhou Rongfang wiped her tears and forced herself to stop crying so that her daughter could be at ease. Yi Weiliang no longer pulled a long face and changed the topic. "Siki, it's going to be the new year in a few days. You and Nyo shouldn't stay outside. Just move back in." Yi Siki smiled. "I think so too. We'll stay here tonight." "Dad, Mom, I hope you don't mind us." Zhou Rongfang smiled reproachfully. "You silly child, what are you saying? This is your home. You can stay here as long as you want. I can't wait for you and Nyo to stay with us every day." "Mom, you're so nice." Yi Siki hugged her arm and leaned on her shoulder. "You're already a mother. Why are you still acting like a child?" Although it was a reproach, there was no reproach in her tone, only affection. This was what parents were like. When their child was sad, they wished that they could bear the pain for their child. Yi Siki stayed at home for dinner. In the afternoon, she went back to her rented apartment to pack her luggage and move back to her parents' house. Lin Shihao didn't know that she was moving. After work that night, he didn't go home. Instead, he drove directly to Siki's rented apartment. He knocked on the door for a long time, but no one answered. He thought that Siki was playing the same trick again and pretended not to be home. He stood outside the door for more than an hour. The old lady of the house opposite suddenly opened the door and said, "Young man, don't wait here anymore. My daughter-in-law said that when she went out to sell vegetables this afternoon, she saw your wife carrying her luggage out." Siki went out? Where did she go? Was she avoiding him on purpose? Lin Shihao's heart ached. Did she really not care about him anymore? In the next few days, Yi Siki was very busy. However, every time she had a break, she would take time to contact Lin Shihao to persuade him to settle the divorce procedures. In the end, every time she called him, she would hear a notification saying that his phone was switched off. She felt very helpless. Fortunately, Bai Jiyao didn't rush her. She had her own selfish motives and wanted to wait until after the Spring Festival to get a divorce. Even if they couldn't have a reunion dinner together, at least they would still be husband and wife. On the eve of the Spring Festival, Nyo woke up early in the morning and ran to the balcony to wait. Zhou Rongfang hurriedly called out to her, "Nyo, it's cold outside. Come in quickly. Don't catch a cold." "I'm not cold, Grandma. I want to wait here for my daddy." Nyo stood on a stool and leaned against the balcony. Zhou Rongfang trembled with fear as she watched. "Io, my little princess. Come down quickly. Look at how dangerous it is here." Zhou Rongfang carried her up and walked into the house. "Grandma, I want to wait for my daddy." Nyo kicked her short legs and muttered unhappily. "Let's sit at home and wait warmly." "Ah, don't be naughty. Be careful that your mommy gets angry." Zhou Rongfang brought up Yi Siki and Nyo immediately became obedient. Yi Weiliang held Nyo by his side. The grandfather and granddaughter pair sat on the sofa and watched TV. Zhou Rongfang went into the kitchen to help her daughter cook. She lowered her voice and said, "Nyo was making a fuss about waiting for her dad outside the balcony just now. Will her dad come today?" Yi Siki paused in her actions of washing the vegetables and smiled. "I don't think so. I haven't been able to contact him these past few days. By the way, Mom, big brother and sister-in-law should be here soon. You should wait in the living room. Leave this to me. They'll be here in a while. I'll do it with you. How can you handle it alone?" Zhou Rongfang rolled up her sleeves and put on an apron. The mother and daughter chatted and laughed as they busied themselves. Yi Siki's phone in her trouser pocket suddenly rang. She quickly wiped her hands and took out her phone. She didn't expect Jiang Rulin to call. Pressing the answer button, Yi Siki felt a little awkward. She didn't know how to address her. Just as she was hesitating, Jiang Rulin's urgent voice came through. "Siki, come to the hospital quickly. Shihao has fallen ill." Yi Siki's heart skipped a beat. She tried her best to sound calm. "How did he fall ill?" Jiang Rulin sighed. "I don't know what's gotten into him recently. He works from morning to night every day and refuses to eat. Even if his body is made of iron, it can't take it. Today, the hospital called and said that he fainted in the office. Yi Siki's face turned pale. He worked so hard. Did he want to die? He woke up in the afternoon but still refused to eat. We had no choice but to give him an 4 drip. Zhang Ruolin paused and said, Siki, I think you're the only one who can persuade him now. Her heart ached, but she didn't agree. It wasn't easy for her to make up her mind to cut off their relationship as husband and wife. If she went to the hospital to see him this time, she was afraid that she would waver. Siki, I know it's very difficult for you to come over to see Shihao, but I really have no other choice. You didn't see it. Shihao is now all skin and bones. Zhang Ruolin choked with sobs. Yi Siki imagined him lying on the hospital bed and being given an 4 drip. Her eyes stung. After hesitating for a long time, she said softly, Okay, I'll go over. After ending the call, her eyes were red. Zhou Rongfeng, who was standing beside her, guessed what was going on. She sighed and said, Shihao is ill? You should go and see him. After all, you were husband and wife. Mom, I'll go then. Don't tell Nyonyo. Yi Siki took off her apron. Okay, go quickly. Zhou Rongfeng waved her hand. When Yi Siki walked to the door, she suddenly called out, Siki, wait. Mom, what's wrong? The chicken soup is ready. Give Shihao a bowl. Zhou Rongfeng quickly took out a thermos and washed it. Then she filled it with chicken soup, closed the lid, and handed it to Siki. Go. The hospital was very deserted. Most of the medical staff had gone home for the new year, leaving only a few staff members on duty. Yi Siki carried the thermos and walked down the empty corridor. Her heart was slightly bleak. Standing at the door of Lin Shihao's ward, she saw Bai Meiwei sitting by his bed, holding a bowl of millet porridge in her hand. She gently urged him to eat. His eyes were closed, as if he was asleep. Yi Siki really wanted to leave, but she couldn't bear to. She saw that Lin Shihao had a tube in the back of his hand. His face was pale, and there was stubble on his chin. He looked extremely haggard. She pursed her lips and deliberately walked into the ward with heavy footsteps. Bai Meiwei turned around. When she saw that it was her, her expression turned a little ugly. She supported her slightly protruding belly and stood up. She said to the man lying on the hospital bed, Shihao, Miss Yi has come to see you. Come and see. Song Shu 566. Chapter 436. Lin Shihao suddenly opened his eyes. When he saw Yi Siki, his eyes were filled with complex emotions. Shock, pain, ecstasy, and finally, all of his emotions turned into coldness. He looked at her coldly and said, Are you here to see if I'm dead? Sorry to disappoint you. He had said before that if he wanted a divorce, he would have to die. Since he wasn't dead, he wouldn't agree to a divorce with her. Yi Siki's face turned pale. Only the heavens knew how much the cold words that came out of his mouth hurt her. Bai Meiwei was delighted. She thought that Lin Shihao was cold to Yi Siki because he hated her and wanted to cut ties with her. Her expression didn't look so bad, and her smile became more sincere. She said gently, Shihao, don't be like this. Miss Yi came to see you out of goodwill. You're hurting her heart by saying that. Lin Shihao sneered. Heart? Yi Siki, do you still have a heart? His deep, dark eyes were filled with coldness. It was so cold that it made her heart tremble. She suddenly clenched her fists and walked unhurriedly to the bedside. She placed the thermos in her hand on the bedside table and said calmly, Since you still want to live, don't torture yourself anymore. After saying this, she turned to leave. Lin Shihao's eyes flashed. He glanced at the thermos and shouted, Stop right there. Yi Siki froze. She slowly turned around, her gaze calm. What's the matter? Lin Shihao didn't answer. He turned his gaze to Bai Meiwei and said coldly, Get out. I have something to say to my wife. Bai Meiwei's face was drained of blood, and her lips trembled slightly. Get out, he shouted sternly with a dark expression. Bai Meiwei's body trembled. She bit her lip and looked like she was about to cry. However, Lin Shihao only felt disgust for her. He didn't hide his disgust at all. He frowned and said coldly, Don't you understand what I'm saying? I told you to get out. Yi Siki felt that she had become evil. When she saw Lin Shihao shouting at Bai Mei Wei, she was very happy. She lowered her eyes and stared at her toes, pretending not to hear anything. Shihao, what are you doing? Zhang Ruolin's figure appeared at the door. She had just gone to the bathroom, and when she came back, she bumped into her son reprimanding Bai Mei Wei. She couldn't help but speak up for Bai Mei Wei. When she heard that you were sick, Mei Wei immediately rushed over from home and personally cooked porridge for you. Mom, Lin Shihao interrupted her unhappily. You and Bai Mei Wei can go out first. I have something to talk to Siki about. Zhang Ruolin's anger was stuck in her chest, but then she remembered that her son was sick in bed, so she didn't argue with him. She smiled at Yi Siki and said, Siki, Shihao hasn't eaten for many days. You should persuade him to eat something. Yi Siki smiled faintly and said, Okay, I got it. Thank you for your hard work. Zhang Ruolin smiled satisfactorily and then looked at Bai Mei Wei. Mei Wei, let's go out first. When Bai Mei Wei left, she looked deeply at Lin Shihao. It was a pity that he was so focused on Yi Siki that he didn't notice her flirtatious gaze. The ward was very quiet. Yi Siki sat by his bed and unscrewed the lid of the thermos. She scooped the chicken soup into a bowl and brought it to his mouth. She ordered matter-of-factly, Open your mouth. Lin Shihao stared at her calm face and gritted his teeth hatefully. Since you don't want me anymore, why do you still care if I live or die? She lifted her eyelids and looked at him indifferently. You don't want me to care about you? Okay then, I'll leave now. She placed the bowl of soup on the bedside table and made a move to get up. A hand grabbed her wrist, and with a sudden tug, she was pulled into his embrace. His arm was like an iron clamp, tightly holding her against his chest. As she leaned against his chest, she realized that he had lost a lot of weight during this period. His bones hurt her face. Her eyes welled up with tears and she gritted her teeth and said, Let go. I won't let go. If I let go, you'll leave. I won't allow you to leave. He was like a rascal. Even his tone was very similar. Lin Shihao, why are you so childish? She felt helpless. She wanted to push him away forcefully, but she was afraid of hurting him. He hugged her even tighter and said in an extremely awkward tone, I'm childish. Tell me, are you still worried about me? She held her breath and said slowly, Don't misunderstand. Your mother asked me to come and see you. His eyes narrowed dangerously. So you didn't want to come at all? She replied. He raised his voice and tried to suppress his emotions. Since you don't care about me, why did you make chicken soup for me? She said softly, My mother asked me to bring it over. Shihao, don't be so childish in the future. Don't torture yourself anymore. Even if I'm not worried, the elders will be. She lowered her head and he couldn't see the pain in her eyes. He buried his head in her neck and greedily breathed in her fragrance. His voice was hoarse and low. Wifey, do you think I did this on purpose so that you would sympathize with me and care about me? His hot breath sprayed on her skin. It was numb and she couldn't help but tremble. He paused for a moment before continuing, That's not it. I worked day and night because I wanted to numb myself with work so that I wouldn't have to think about you. I didn't eat because every time I saw the food, I would think of the food you personally cooked for me. Without you by my side, I can't sleep at night. I can't taste my food, so I decided not to sleep or eat. Yi Siki's eyes were misty with tears. She held back her tears for a long time and forced them back. She said softly, I'm here now. Let's eat. If he didn't eat, his body wouldn't be able to take it anymore. She reached out for the bowl of soup. This time he didn't stop her. He adjusted his position slightly and hugged her waist with both hands. The two of them were sitting face to face. She handed the bowl of soup to him. Drink it yourself. I want you to feed me. His hands were still hugging her waist, and his tone was extremely awkward. Yi Siki sighed silently. Who asked him to be sick? Let him be. She scooped a spoonful of soup and brought it to his mouth. He opened his mouth gigai, and his burning gaze landed on her. She pretended not to know anything and lowered her eyes to feed him the soup mechanically. After feeding him the soup, she fed him half a bowl of millet porridge. Then she took a tissue and wiped his mouth. Rest for a while. She tried to pull the pillow from behind him, but he held her hand tightly and said in a low voice, Stay with me. She pursed her lips. Dad, Mom, and Nyonyo are all waiting for me at home. There are already many of them. I'm the only one here." His tone was so bleak. "How can you be the only one here? Your mom and Bai Mei Wei are both here." He curled his lips mockingly. "With them here, I'd rather be alone." During this period of time, his mother had spared no effort in matchmaking him and Bai Mei Wei. How could he not see that the reason why she had accepted Bai Mei Wei was largely because of the son in her stomach? He was very disappointed. She had never seen the loneliness and sadness in his eyes before. Her heart felt very uncomfortable. She couldn't bear to leave him alone and go home for the reunion dinner. "Go to sleep." She patted the back of his hand discreetly, implying that she would stay. He broke into a bright smile. "Wifey, I knew you couldn't bear to leave me." She snorted in annoyance. "Go to sleep, or I'll leave." Okay. I'll sleep right away. Don't leave." He held her hand tightly and lay down on the bed obediently. He was indeed exhausted. Once he relaxed, he fell asleep as soon as he closed his eyes. Yi Siki sat by the bed and looked at his sleeping face. She smiled bitterly. Her slender fingers gently stroked his brows as she whispered, "Hubby, I missed you so much." When Lin Shihao woke up, it was already evening. Her hand was still in his. He turned his head and saw Yi Siki glaring at him impatiently. "You're finally awake. Let go of my hand." This man was afraid that she would run away. He was already fast asleep, but he still held her hand tightly. She couldn't go anywhere or do anything. She could only sit by his bed. Jiang Rulin brought her lunch in the afternoon. She could only use one hand to barely fill her stomach. That was fine, but the most troublesome thing was that she had to hold it in. He was slightly stunned, as if he couldn't believe that she was still here. Yi Siki's frown deepened. Her voice was urgent. "Why are you in a daze? Let go of my hand. I need to go to the bathroom." Pfft. He actually laughed. The force on her wrist disappeared. Yi Siki glared at him and ran into the bathroom at lightning speed. Although the bathroom door was closed, it didn't stop her from hearing his joyful laughter. Yi Siki couldn't help but roll her eyes. Who caused her to be in such a sorry state? The culprit actually dared to laugh at her. How dare he? Lin Shihao had rested well and recovered some of his energy. He got out of bed, washed up, shaved, and changed into a new set of clothes. The gentle and handsome man of the past was back. After he was done, he smiled gently. "Honey, let's go home." Yi Siki's anger was stuck in her throat. "You haven't recovered yet. Rest for another night before you leave the hospital." His smile became even gentler. "I'm fine now. Today is the reunion night. Of course, I have to spend it with my family." He lifted 2 bags with one hand. They were filled with his clothes and daily necessities. He held her hand with the other hand. "Honey, let's go home." She shook her head. "I can't go home with you. I want to go back to my mother's place." "Okay, then let's go to your mother's place." How? She wanted to say something, but he stopped her with one sentence. "Honey, I miss Nyonyo." Nyonyo missed him very much too. She had been looking forward to seeing him since the morning. She didn't want to disappoint her daughter. Yi Siki and Lin Shihao appeared at the same time. The Yi family was stunned. Yi Siki's eldest brother, Yi Shuyao, reacted quickly. He smiled and said, "Speak of the devil. I was just about to call to ask when you guys would be back." Welfare, Hongcha 866. Chapter 437. Lin Shihao greeted his family members with a smile. His brother and sister-in-law all smiled in response. Yi Weiliang gave him face and invited him to sit down with a smile. Nyonyo pounced on him and hugged his leg affectionately. Zhou Rongfang heard the noise and came out of the kitchen with an apron. She smiled and said, "Shihao, you're here. Sit down and rest. Dinner will be ready soon. Siki, come and help me in the kitchen." Yi Siki sighed and quickly walked into the kitchen. As Zhou Rongfang busied herself, she lowered her voice and asked, "How is he?" "He's fine now." "That's good." Nyonyo and Yi Shuyao's son, Tong Tong, had a good relationship. The 2 children sat next to each other and would whisper and laugh from time to time. Even the atmosphere at the dinner table became lively. Everyone in the Yi family knew about Lin Shihao and Yi Siki's divorce, but no one mentioned it. They only talked about happy things. After dinner, everyone gathered to watch the New Year's gala. It was very lively. Lin Shihao's cell phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the caller ID and walked out to the balcony to answer the call. "Mom, have you eaten? You still know that I'm your mother." Zhang Ruolin was very angry. "Since you've been discharged, why didn't you go home? Why did you go to someone else's house for the new year and leave me alone at home? What's going on?" Lin Shihao frowned. "Mom, what do you mean by someone else's house? I'm at my in-laws' house. We used to spend the new year with you. This is the first time I'm spending the new year with my in-laws. Why are you jealous?" "I'm not jealous. I'm angry. Since you're divorced, you should break up cleanly. Otherwise, if the Bai family finds out, who knows what trouble they'll cause." Lin Shihao frowned even more and said stiffly, "Mom, I've said many times that I won't agree to the divorce. Siki and I are still husband and wife. I don't care about the Bai family or the He family. I like to spend the new year at my wife's house. No one can stop me." Zhang Ruolin was so angry that she couldn't speak for a long time. Why couldn't her son understand her painstaking efforts? "Mom, that's it. I'll go back tomorrow." He paused and added, "Mom, Happy New Year's Eve." He still felt guilty about leaving her alone at home. As soon as the call ended, another call came in. When Lin Shihao saw the 3 words by Mei Wei, he didn't even think about it and immediately turned off the phone. On this kind of family reunion day, he really didn't want to have anything to do with her. When he returned to the living room, Yi Siki was playing with her phone. It looked like she was texting someone. He really wanted to go over and see who she was talking to, but he couldn't make it too obvious. He quietly moved his butt closer to her, then stretched his neck and secretly peeked. "Xiao Tiancheng. Silly girl, I wish you and little Nyo a happy spring festival. Yi Siki, Happy Chinese New Year to you too." "Xiao Tiancheng, what are you doing?" "Yi Siki, watching TV. What about you?" "Xiao Tiancheng, you're being scolded by my old man. Poor thing." Yi Siki sent a sweaty emoji. Xiao Tiancheng replied with a grinning emoji. Lin Shihao watched the conversation between her and Xiao Tiancheng. His heart felt like it was soaked in a vat of vinegar. He stiffly retracted his head and sat upright. He pretended not to have seen anything and nudged Siki's arm. "Honey, Happy New Year." Yi Siki looked up at him in surprise. All these years, whenever they celebrated the New Year together, he would never say Happy New Year's to her. He coughed and insisted, "Honey, Happy New Year's." She replied strangely, "Happy New Year's." He smiled happily. Then he looked at the phone in her hand and lectured her like a parent. "Don't play with your phone. Everyone is watching TV. You have to respect everyone." Yi Siki's mouth twitched. She didn't know what was wrong with him. She said, "Oh." Then she lowered her head and quickly replied to Xiao Tiancheng, "I can't chat anymore. Someone has something to say." Xiao Tiancheng quickly replied, "Your husband." When Yi Siki heard the text, she was too embarrassed to reply under Lin Shihao's intense gaze. She put the phone back into her pocket. At midnight, after watching the fireworks, Nyo complained that she was sleepy. Yi Siki took her back to her old room to rest. Lin Shihao chatted with his brother-in-law and father-in-law for a while. Then he went back to his room to sleep. There weren't enough bedrooms at home, so Lin Shihao still shared a room with Yi Siki. When he returned to his room, Yi Siki had already fallen asleep with Nyo in her arms. Nyo slept between the two of them. Lin Shihao reached out and hugged the mother and daughter in his arms. His tense nerves completely relaxed, and he quickly fell asleep. When Yi Siki woke up the next day, she found herself in Lin Shihao's arms. She was shocked. She remembered that she deliberately let Nyo sleep in the middle last night to separate herself from Lin Shihao. Why was she in his arms when she woke up? Where was Nyo? She turned her head and looked around. Even though it was a small movement, it still woke Lin Shihao up. There was a faint smile in his obsidian-like eyes. He hugged her even tighter, and his voice was hoarse in the morning. "Honey, what are you looking for?" She pushed his chest and tried to retreat. Where's Nyonyo? Why is she gone? He lowered his head and rubbed his chin against her soft hair. He chuckled softly. Nyonyo woke up a long time ago. She went out to play with Tong Tong. Honey, I haven't hugged you to sleep like this in a long time. They had only been apart for less than half a month, but he felt that it had been as long as a year. His hand quietly reached under her clothes and slowly moved up, caressing her smooth and tender skin inch by inch. His body was pressed tightly against hers, and the scorching heat from his body was like a soldering iron. She couldn't help but tremble slightly. Her cheeks were burning, and she whispered, "Shihao, don't be like this. Let go of me. Honey, I missed you." His voice was hoarse and magnetic. It was extremely sexy. His warm breath sprayed on her skin, and he gently bit her small earlobe. Her body suddenly tensed up, and she struggled with all her might. Her voice was frantic. "Lin Shihao, let go of me." They had been married for so many years. How could she not know that this was a sign that he was aroused? He didn't let go, but hugged her even tighter. His head slowly lowered, and he bit her shoulder gently. He supported her back with one hand and covered her soft snowy peaks with the other, kneading gently. His heavy breathing sounded in her ears. A hard and hot thing was pressed against her abdomen. She was embarrassed and angry, and she hit his chest, almost crying. "I told you to let go. You bastard. You only know how to bully me." They were about to get a divorce. How could he treat her like this? Her eyes were glistening. Lin Shihao's dark eyes suddenly narrowed, and he stopped what he was doing. He buried his head in her shoulder and breathed heavily. "Don't cry." He suppressed the desire in his heart with difficulty and kissed the corner of her moist eyes gently. "You bastard." She hit him on the shoulder and whimpered softly. "I'm a bastard," he admitted honestly. "I hate you." "Yeah, you hate me. You pervert." He laughed bitterly. "Wifey, do I have to admit this too?" Yi Siki couldn't help but want to laugh, but she immediately put on a straight face and said fiercely, "You have to admit it." "Okay, I'm a pervert." He stroked her hair good-naturedly and said gently, "Are you not angry anymore?" She glared at him. "Let go of me. I'm going to get up." "Okay." Although he couldn't bear to, he still obediently let go of her. Yi Siki was afraid that he would suddenly change his mind, so she quickly got out of his arms and jumped off the bed. She said angrily, "I'm going to change. Close your eyes. Don't peek." "Okay, I'll close my eyes." His voice was full of laughter and indulgence, and it made her heart tremble. Yi Siki changed her clothes and turned around. She realized that a certain man really had his eyes closed. There was even a faint smile on his thin lips, and he looked extremely handsome. She said that she didn't love him anymore. It was all a lie. Just a look or a smile from him could make her depressed mood soar. Yet she had to endure it and not let him find out. Yi Siki felt that her life was very tiring. She forced herself to look away and walked straight to the door. When Lin Shihao opened his eyes, she had just opened the door and disappeared outside. He was like a child who had succeeded in his prank, and a bright smile appeared on his lips. Yi Siki felt that it was very strange. During dinner, everyone looked at her strangely. Her sister-in-law blushed and glanced at her several times, as if she wanted to say something but was too embarrassed to say it. Her mother's expression was also very strange. Her eyes kept moving around her neck. "Mommy, what's wrong with your neck? It's red. It looks like you were bitten by a mosquito. But there aren't any mosquitoes now." Nyonyo blinked her large eyes and stared innocently at her neck. Yi Siki suddenly thought of something, and her mind went blank. Neck. Red. It must have been left behind by Lin Shihao, that jerk. Her face was boiling hot. She lowered her head in embarrassment and shrunk her neck. Just as she was about to say something to save her face, Lin Shihao smiled and said, "Nyonyo, your mommy wasn't bitten by a mosquito. It's just an allergic reaction and a rash. But it's okay. It'll get better soon." "Oh, so that's what happened. Mommy, does it hurt?" Yi Siki smiled awkwardly. "It doesn't hurt. It'll go away soon." Zhou Rongfang coughed and changed the topic. She mentioned that a certain child of Siki's 7 aunts was getting married after the new year. Yi Shuyao agreed and said that the child used to snatch toys from him when they were young. The awkward atmosphere livened up again. After dinner, Yi Siki went back to her room and looked in the mirror. She realized that there was a hickey on the right side of her neck. Because it was closer to the back, she didn't notice it when she was changing her clothes. She found a scarf and tied it around her neck to cover the hickey. Just as she was about to leave the room, Lin Shihao pushed the door open and came in. Seeing that she was wearing a scarf, his lips curled into a meaningful smile. Yi Siki's face was fierce. "You did it on purpose." He laughed softly and admitted readily, "I did it on purpose." He wanted to use this method to tell her family that he loved her very much and that they were still husband and wife. Welfare, Xinwu 799. Chapter 438. During the Spring Festival, Lin Shihao spent almost all of his time at the Yi residence. He claimed that he was there to accompany his daughter, but in reality, he was trying to get his wife back. Yi Weiliang and Zhou Rongfang knew that they were about to get a divorce, but they were still pestering them. At first, they were a little unhappy, but when they saw how happy Lin Shihao and Nyonyo were, they didn't say anything. As for Yi Siki, she could tolerate him wandering around in front of her during the day, but every night, he would squeeze into the same bed with her, which made her tremble with fear. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to control herself and would be seduced by him, and something would go wrong. Fortunately, the holidays weren't long. After a week, Lin Shihao went back to work at the hospital, and Yi Siki moved back to the apartment he rented with Nyonyo. When Lin Shihao got off work at night and returned to his empty home, there was no one to smile at him and say, "Honey, you're back." No one to bring him a hot meal, and no one to laugh and talk about the interesting things of the day. He sat alone on the sofa and turned on the lights in the room. The volume of the TV was very loud, and he wanted to drive away the loneliness in his heart, but his heart was still empty. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. He was shocked. Thinking that Siki had returned, he quickly walked to the door and looked through the peephole. His brows furrowed tightly. Jiang Rulin and Bai Mei Wei were standing at the door with 2 large suitcases by their feet. Lin Shihao opened the door. "Mom, it's so late. Why are you here?" "I wanted to come over during the day, but you weren't home during the day." Jiang Rulin pulled the 2 suitcases in front of him and said bluntly, "Shihao, help us bring the suitcases in." Then, without waiting for Lin Shihao's reaction, she pulled Bai Meiwei's hand and led her into the room. Lin Shihao didn't care about the suitcases. The door was open, and he strode past them to block their way. He looked unhappy. "Mom, what are you doing?" Jiang Rulin looked at him calmly. "You're a big man. How can you live without someone to take care of you? From today onwards, Mei Wei and I will move in and take care of your daily needs." Lin Shihao frowned and the veins on his forehead throbbed. He suppressed his anger and said, "Mom, is it appropriate for you to let an outsider move into our house?" Bai Mei Wei's face paled and she subconsciously tightened her grip on Jiang Rulin's hand. Jiang Rulin patted the back of her hand comfortingly and glared angrily at Lin Shihao. "How is Mei Wei an outsider? She's now my future daughter-in-law and your son's mother. She can't work in the hospital in her current state, so I asked her to move in and take care of her." Lin Shihao's entire body suddenly exploded with cold anger. He suppressed his anger and shouted at her, "Mom, get this straight. Siki and I haven't divorced yet. Siki is your daughter-in-law. How can there be a mother-in-law like you? Don't go overboard." Jiang Rulin said angrily, "I'm going overboard? Who am I doing this for? It's all because of you." Lin Shihao clenched his fists and the veins on his forehead throbbed. "If you're really doing this for my sake, then don't interfere with my matters with Siki. You're my son. What's wrong with me interfering with your matters?" Jiang Rulin said angrily, "Mei Wei and I are moving here anyway. If you don't help me carry my luggage, fine. It's fine. I'll carry it myself." Bai Mei Wei's face paled and she forced a smile. "Auntie Jiang, since Shihao doesn't welcome us, let's leave. Since you're already here, there's no reason for you to leave. You can stay here at ease." Jiang Rulin held her hand and didn't even look at Lin Shihao's livid face. She rushed to the door and dragged the luggage in and slammed the door shut. They had already entered and one of them was his mother. There was no way to chase them away, but at the very least, he had to keep his bottom line. Jiang Rulin wanted to put Bai Mei Wei's luggage in his and Siki's master bedroom, but he quickly locked the door and blocked it. With a cold face he said, "Move her things to the guest room." Zhang Rulin didn't insist. She led Bai Mei Wei to the guest room while she stayed in another guest room. It was a night that made people irritable. Lin Shihao changed into his home clothes. His brows were tightly knitted as he leaned against the headboard and read a book. He couldn't take in a single word of the book. His ears were filled with the laughter and chatter of the two women outside. One was his mother, and the other was the woman who caused his family to break apart. They sat in the living room and chatted while watching a melodramatic TV series about wealthy families. He couldn't calm down at all. He simply threw the book on the bedside table and closed his eyes to rest. However, he couldn't sleep and his mind was in a mess. He picked up his phone and sent a message to Yi Siki. After editing a few messages, he felt unsatisfied and deleted them. Finally, he sent a few simple words. "Honey, is Nyonyo asleep?" When Yi Siki saw this message, she didn't intend to reply. However, he didn't ask her how she was but asked about their daughter instead. It seemed like there was no reason not to reply to him. She hesitated for a moment before replying. "She's already asleep." Lin Shihao held his phone and waited for her reply. After waiting for a few minutes, he still didn't get a reply. He was very depressed. Suddenly, his phone beeped and he quickly opened the message. Even though it was a simple message, he was so happy that the corners of his mouth curled up. He quickly sent another message. "Did Nyonyo miss me today?" Yi Siki was a little annoyed. This man must be doing this on purpose. She replied slowly. "How would I know? I'm going to sleep. I'm ignoring you." When Lin Shihao saw this message, his deep eyes were full of smiles. He could imagine her glaring at him coquettishly. Her tone was clearly angry, but in his eyes, it became coquettish words. He chuckled softly and replied, "Go to sleep. Cover yourself with the blanket. It's best if you can dream of me." As expected, she didn't reply to him. Although he felt a little disappointed, his heart was still overflowing with warmth. She wasn't like what she said. She didn't love him anymore. She still cared about him. He was going to pursue her relentlessly. The next morning, Lin Shihao washed up and changed his clothes. When he came out of the bedroom, he saw a figure busy in the kitchen. He vaguely thought that Siki had returned. His heart tightened and he almost rushed over. The figure suddenly turned around and smiled gently at him. "Shihao, good morning. Take a seat first. Breakfast will be ready soon." So it was Bai Mei Wei. Lin Shihao's boiling heart gradually turned cold. He said lightly, "I'm not eating." He turned around and locked the bedroom door with the key. His intention was obvious. He didn't want anyone to enter the room. The smile on Bai Mei Wei's face froze. He didn't look at her and walked towards the door with his bag in hand. She hurried over and grabbed his arm. He turned around unhappily, his sharp gaze fixed on her hand. She calmly retracted her hand and smiled faintly. "Shihao, it's not good for your health to skip breakfast. I've already made breakfast. Eat a little before you leave." He said coldly, "No need. I'm not used to other people's cooking." With a bang, the door slammed shut, and his figure disappeared. Bai Mei Wei stood there in a daze. After a long time, she smiled darkly. That smile made people shudder. Lin Shihao took the afternoon off. When he opened the door with the key, there was no one in the house. Bai Mei Wei and his mother had gone out. It was good that they weren't at home. It would prevent another dispute. He found a suitcase from the closet and stuffed his clothes and daily necessities into it. Then he locked the door and went downstairs with the suitcase. He put the suitcase in the trunk of the car and drove to Yi Siki's neighborhood. Xiao Tiansheng held Nyonyo's little hand while Yi Siki carried Nyonyo's school bag. The three of them came out of the elevator together. Their laughter echoed in the corridor like a happy family of three. Yi Siki took out the key and opened the door. She smiled and said, "Thank you for sending us back. Do you want to come in and sit for a while?" Xiao Tiansheng glanced at Nyonyo, who was happily running into her room. He raised his eyebrows and said, "If you don't mind, I'd like to stay for dinner." Yi Siki looked a little embarrassed. That's not very good. They were a man and a woman alone. No matter what, they should avoid arousing suspicion. Xiao Tianxing looked aggrieved. "Why are you so petty? Isn't it just a meal from you? At most, I'll treat you to a meal another day. My servants are on holiday today. No one will cook for me when I get home. He sounded so pitiful that Yi Siki couldn't help but sympathize with him. She hesitated for a moment and said, "All right then. But I can't promise that it'll be a sumptuous meal. We'll eat whatever is in the fridge." "No problem. I'm not picky at all." He grinned and almost patted his chest to make a promise. Yi Siki changed her clothes, put on an apron, and went into the kitchen to cook. Xiao Tianxing leaned against the kitchen door and watched for a while before she chased him away. "I'm nervous with you standing here. Go to the living room and watch TV." Xiao Tianxing laughed. He didn't sit in the living room and watch TV. Instead, he ran to Nyonyo's room and helped her with her homework. Yi Siki was busy in the kitchen when the doorbell suddenly rang. She couldn't free her hands to open the door, so she stuck her head out and shouted, "Nyonyo, help mommy open the door and see who's here." She didn't expect Xiao Tianxing to come running out. He walked straight to the door and opened it without looking at who it was. The person outside and the person inside were stunned at the same time. Lin Shihao was wearing a coat and holding a box of cake in his hand. His tall and straight figure stood at the door. His handsome face was expressionless, and his eyes were cold. He said calmly, "Mr. Xiao, why are you here?" Xiao Tianxing crossed his arms leisurely and chuckled. "I should be the one asking you that. Mr. Lin, why are you here?" The two men were equally outstanding. One stood at the door while the other stood outside. One stood proudly while the other was wild and unruly. Neither side gave in to the other and fought with their eyes. "Who is it?" Yi Siki put the food on a plate, turned off the gas, wiped her hands, and came out of the kitchen. The two men's eyes fell on her at the same time. When she saw the situation clearly, she felt like she was struck by lightning. Welfare, Hongcha 866. Chapter 439. Who could tell her what was going on? Why did she have a bad premonition that she had been caught red-handed when she looked at Lin Shihao's cold eyes? Yi Siki coughed and forced a smile. Shihao, why are you here?" Lin Shihao couldn't wait to throw Xiao Tiancheng out and hug the little woman who was looking at him timidly in his arms. He clenched his fists tightly, gritted his teeth, and said in a deep voice, "I'm not only here as a husband, but also as a neighbor. May I ask why Mr. Xiao is here?" Xiao Tianxing smiled innocently. "I'm here as a friend, of course. I'm here to have dinner with Siki and Nyonyo. Can't I do that?" Yi Siki quickly explained, "Tianxing sent Nyonyo and me home today. I'm treating him to dinner to show my gratitude." Xiao Tianxing looked a little unhappy. Was this woman so worried that Lin Shihao would misunderstand? "I haven't had dinner either." His meaning was obvious. He was going to freeload this meal. His face was dark. Without waiting for the host to greet him, he changed his shoes and walked in as if he had returned to his own home. Yi Siki couldn't say anything in front of outsiders. She forced a smile and said, "The food is ready. Let's eat." Lin Shihao replied with an N, and placed the cake on the coffee table. Then, he went to Nyonyo's room to call her to eat. When Nyonyo saw that her father had come, she was extremely excited. She hugged his neck and kissed his face twice. The atmosphere at the dinner table was a little strange. As usual, Lin Shihao was a good husband and father. He picked up food for Siki and deboned fish for his daughter. He clearly drew a line on the table. On one side was the family of three, and on the other was Xiao Tianxing. Xiao Tianxing looked at them happily and couldn't help but feel a little bitter. Yi Siki was very considerate of his feelings. She smiled and told him to eat more, as it was good for his health. "Mr. Xiao, don't stand on ceremony. Eat more." Lin Shihao acted like a male host. Xiao Tianxing smiled. "Mr. Lin, you don't have to be so polite." He casually reminded him that he was just a guest. Seeing that the two of them were about to start arguing again, Yi Siki quickly changed the topic. "By the way, Shihao, you said that you're my neighbor. What do you mean?" Lin Shihao scooped half a bowl of soup for his daughter and smiled gently. "From today onwards, I've moved upstairs. From now on, we'll be neighbors." Yi Siki was stunned. "Why don't you stay at home? Wouldn't it be troublesome to move out?" Lin Shihao looked at her and smiled meaningfully. "I'll follow you wherever you go." Yi Siki's fingers trembled. She wanted to say something, but because Xiao Tianxing was present, she swallowed her words. Nyo clapped happily. That's great. Daddy lives upstairs. He can eat with us every day from now on. Yeah, Daddy will take you to and from school from now on. You don't have to trouble your Uncle Xiao. Lin Shihao emphasized the word uncle, as if he was reminding someone. Xiao Tianxing's smile did not change, but his words were especially sharp. Some things can't be changed just because you're close. Oh, what's that idiom again? Oh right, so close yet worlds apart. That's what it means. Lin Shihao smiled faintly. I also know that there's a saying, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Since you have the heart, there's nothing you can't do. I think there's another saying, bedfellows dream different dreams. Xiao Tianxing's lips curved into a cold smile. Lin Shihao smiled and said faintly, Mr. Xiao is so knowledgeable. You must have heard of the saying, love is stronger than gold. The two of them opposed each other with equal harshness. Nyo looked from one to the other. She puffed up her cheeks as if she understood. Yi Siki slammed her chopsticks on the table. If you want to continue playing word games, I won't keep you company. Xiao Tianxing coughed and said, word games are boring. We won't play anymore. Yi Siki snorted and picked up her chopsticks again. I see that you're having fun. How is it boring? Lin Shihao picked up a piece of pork rib and placed it in her bowl. He chuckled softly. Don't be angry. When they finally finished eating, Yi Siki cleared the dishes and went into the kitchen as if she was escaping. Lin Shihao wanted to go in and help her, but she chased him out. Xiao Tianxing played with Nyo for a while. When Yi Siki finished cleaning up the kitchen, he said goodbye and left. Yi Siki walked him to the door. He glanced at Lin Shihao, who came out with her. The two of them stood side by side and looked very compatible. He felt a little upset. He smiled and said, I'm leaving. Good night. Be careful on your way back. Good night. Yi Siki smiled and waved. It was already past 9, but Lin Shihao had no intention of leaving. He hugged Nyo and curled up on the sofa to play games. Yi Siki couldn't help but say, it's getting late. Shouldn't you go home? Lin Shihao lifted his wrist to look at his watch. He smiled and said, I almost forgot the time. Nyo, it's time to sleep. Come, Daddy will carry you back to your room. No need. I'm already a big girl. I'll go back by myself. Daddy. Mommy. Good night. Nyo jumped out of his arms and waved her chubby little hand. She ran back to her room like a little cannonball, as if she was deliberately leaving them some alone space. In the large space, only the two of them were left. His handsome figure stood in front of her and walked closer to her step by step. She could smell danger in the air and instinctively stepped back. Suddenly, he reached out and wrapped his arms around her waist. His dark eyes stared into her eyes. His thin lips moved slightly. Does he come here often? Who? She played dumb. He looked slightly annoyed. You know who I'm talking about. Her expression was calm. Not very often. He's only come here twice. The first time was when we first moved here. Today is the second time. His face darkened and his eyes narrowed dangerously. You think 2 times is too little? Yi Siki pushed his arm away angrily. What are you doing? I only treat him as a normal friend. I see that you're very free. Let's find some time tomorrow to settle the divorce procedures. Lin Shihao's eyes narrowed and a surge of anger rushed to his heart. Just as he was about to say something, his cell phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the caller ID and frowned. As soon as the call connected, Zhang Rulin's unhappy voice was heard. Shihao, it's so late. Why aren't you home yet? Mom, I've moved out. Zhang Rulin said angrily. Are you crazy? You're living well in your own home. Why do you have to move out? Lin Shihao frowned and said coldly, I am crazy. I've been crazy since the day you forced me to divorce Siki. My own home? Humph. You're moving in with an outsider. Is that still my own home? Mom, as long as Siki doesn't go back, I won't move back either. You can stay as long as you want. I won't care about you anymore. Being forced to this extent, he felt a headache coming on. The anger and resentment in his heart finally broke through the barrier of reason and exploded. On the other end, Jiang Rulin was so angry at her son that she was trembling all over. Bai Mei Wei consoled her gently, but there was a hidden coldness in her beautiful eyes. No one knew what she was thinking. On the other end, Yi Siki heard Lin Shihao and Jiang Rulin talking on the phone and more or less guessed something. She hesitated for a moment and said, "Your mom and Bai Mei Wei moved to your home?" She quickly changed her words. His heart tightened and he glared at her. "That's our home." He didn't refute, which was a tacit admission. She suddenly found it very funny. That Bai Mei Wei really couldn't wait. They hadn't officially divorced yet, but she was already shameless enough to enter their home. She said mildly, "I'm tired. You should go back and rest too." She turned to leave, but Lin Shihao grabbed her wrist. "Are you angry?" She frowned. "Why would I be angry?" "You're angry that Bai Mei Wei moved into our home." He stared into her eyes and said with certainty, "I'm not. That's your home now. You can let whoever you want move in." "It's none of my business." She flung his hand away. He stared fixedly at her back view as she left resolutely. A smile appeared in his dark eyes and the corners of his lips turned up. He said slowly, "Wifey, so you still know how to be angry." Since she was angry, it meant that she still cared. He was in a good mood after coming to this conclusion. Oh, it looked like he would be able to sleep well tonight. After Lin Shihao moved upstairs, it directly led to two consequences. The first consequence was that Yi Siki had to make an extra set of meals every day because a certain thick-skinned man would come over to freeload every day. At first, she didn't want to make his share, not because she was stingy, but because she didn't want him to develop a habit. Who knew that he would actually be so thick-skinned as to eat her breakfast, causing her to have no choice but to make another set. The second consequence was that Yi Siki's bedtime was delayed by half an hour because a certain shameless man would stay at her house to play games with Nyonyo every day after freeloading on her for dinner. He would only leave reluctantly when she couldn't hold back her temper and chased him away. After being together for so many years, it was only now that she realized that a certain man with the surname Lin had called her by the wrong name. He should be called Nyo Pai Tang, a sticky and sweet Nyo Pai Tang. More than 10 days passed like this. Yi Siki proposed a divorce again. Lin Shihao was already so good at it that he didn't get angry with her anymore. He directly blocked her mouth with a kiss. She was so angry that she waved her hands and punched him with all her might. He groaned. After he let go of her, he smiled like a kitten that had succeeded in cheating. "Wifey, if you mention those two words again in the future, I will use this method to block your mouth again." "You bastard." Yi Siki was so angry that she almost vomited blood. Lin Shihao wasn't in a hurry to get a divorce, but someone else was. The Bai family couldn't hold back anymore and made 2 calls to Yi Siki. Yi Siki was angered by both sides and wanted to tie Lin Shihao up with a rope and take him to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Who knew that at this moment when things were calm on the surface but undercurrents were surging, Lin Shihao's scandal was exposed. An anonymous netizen posted a post that described in detail the emotional entanglement between Lin Shihao and Bai Mei Wei. It also exposed photos of Lin Shihao and Bai Mei Wei wearing white coats and chatting face to face. There were also photos of Lin Shihao being hospitalized and Bai Mei Wei taking care of him. Of course, as an extramarital affair scandal, there was no lack of the abandoned wife. At the same time, photos of Yi Siki covering her face and crying bitterly were released online. If this was just an extramarital affair between 2 ordinary doctors, it wouldn't have attracted so much attention. The bad thing was that the netizen used the identity of the man and woman to talk about it. Lin Shihao was the only son of Jiang Rulin, the female boss of the Wang Jianglu chain of restaurants. He could be considered a rich second-generation heir. On the other hand, Bai Mei Wei was the daughter of the director of the city's People's Hospital. She was the daughter of a famous family. Bai Mei Wei suddenly received a call from Bailey Fei Yen. "Mei Wei, are you okay?" Bai Mei Wei heard her worried voice and was puzzled. "I'm not bad. What's wrong?" Bailey Fei Yen had a loud personality and couldn't hide things at all. She opened her mouth and said, "Aya, it's all over the internet. It said that you and Lin Shihao had an extramarital affair and forced his wife away. Now you're pregnant and even moved into his house." Bai Mei Wei's head exploded and her face turned pale. It was all over the internet? How could this be? Who was trying to harm her? Could it be Yi Siki? Mei Wei? Mei Wei, are you okay? Bai Mei Wei gritted her teeth. I'm fine. Fei Yan, I'm hanging up first. Without waiting for Bailey Fei Yan to say anything else, she hung up the phone. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anger and she used all her strength to swing the vase on the coffee table to the ground. The porcelain vase smashed to the ground and shattered into pieces. Aya, Mei Wei, what's wrong? Are you hurt? Zhang Ruolin heard the noise and hurriedly ran to the living room. Bai Mei Wei sat weakly on the sofa. Tears welled up in her eyes and she was about to cry. Auntie Zhang, I accidentally dropped the vase. It's fine if it's dropped. It's just a vase. Why are you crying? Zhang Ruolin sat beside her and comforted her gently. Don't cry. It's not good for a pregnant woman to cry too much. Bai Mei Wei turned her head and threw herself into her arms. She burst into tears. Auntie, something bad has happened. What's wrong? She raised her head, her face full of tears. I don't know who exposed my relationship with Shi Hao on the internet. Now everyone is saying that I'm a homewrecker. Auntie, what should we do? Shi Hao will definitely be affected. Zhang Ruolin was stunned at first. Then she became anxious. However, she didn't forget that Bai Mei Wei was pregnant. She tried her best to suppress the anxiety in her heart and comforted her. Mei Wei, don't cry. It's not good for the child to be emotional. Let's think about how to solve this problem first. Bai Mei Wei wiped her tears aggrievedly. I don't know who did this to Shi Hao. She didn't mention herself at all. Every sentence she said was for Lin Shi Hao's sake. Zhang Ruolin couldn't help but follow her train of thought. She frowned and said, that person knows so much. It must be someone you and Shi Hao know. Bai Mei Wei nodded. I guess so too. And that person must have a grudge with us. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done this to us. A grudge? Someone who knew the inside story very well? There was only one person who fit both of these criteria. A name immediately popped up in Zhang Ruolin's mind. Yi Siki. Come and see. Song Shu 566. Chapter 440. Yi Siki was very puzzled. At work today, her colleagues were all looking at her strangely, as if they were looking at someone begging on the streets. They were looking at her with a gaze that was half sympathetic and half pitiful. The vegetable washer, Xiao Wang, smiled at her. Sister Yi, if the old doesn't go, the new won't come. Don't be sad over those who aren't worth it. The head chef patted her shoulder. Xiao Yi, you're a good woman. You'll definitely meet a good man who will cherish you. The female chef, Xiao Nan, who was closest to her, hugged her arm and whispered, Sister Siki, don't be sad. That man can't see the good in you. It's his loss to leave you. You'll definitely meet a better man. Yi Siki was confused. She looked at them in confusion. What are you all talking about? She had never told anyone about her family situation. Why did they all look like they knew so much about it? Xiao Wang held the iPad in front of her and quickly opened a web page. Sister Yi, look. Your situation is all over the internet. Yi Siki was shocked. She quickly snatched the iPad from his hands and carefully browsed through the post about her and Lin Shihao's marriage. The post described Lin Shihao in a very bad light. It said that Lin Shihao had cheated on his marriage in order to climb up the social ladder and had hooked up with the director's daughter. It also said that Lin Shihao was heartless and abandoned his wife. It even said that Lin Shihao took advantage of work to maintain an improper relationship with a female patient. What kind of nonsense was this? Yi Siki was angry and anxious. Her face was very ugly, and her fingers were trembling. Her colleagues thought that the post had poked at her sore spot and made her sad. They all came forward to comfort her. She took a deep breath, glanced at everyone and said calmly, You're all wrong. My husband isn't that kind of person. This post is made up. Someone is deliberately slandering him. After saying this, she didn't care about the expressions of the crowd. She hurriedly turned around and planned to go to the People's Hospital. Since her colleagues knew about this matter, the hospital must know about it too. She had to go there and explain it clearly for Lin Shihao. Just as she came out of the kitchen and was walking along the staff corridor, her cell phone suddenly rang. It was Zhang Ruolin. She put the phone to her ear and Zhang Ruolin's angry voice immediately exploded. Yi Siki, Were you the one who exposed Shihao and Mei Wei's matter on the internet? A day as husband and wife means endless devotion for the rest of your life. How can you be so cruel? In a moment of panic, Yisiki blurted out, Mom, you've misunderstood. I didn't do it. I just found out about it. Don't call me Mom. I don't have such a heartless daughter-in-law like you. Zhang Ruolin had already determined that she was the mastermind, so she said angrily, I was the one who forced you to divorce Shihao. If you have any resentment, then take it out on me. Don't hurt Shihao. Yisiki's face turned pale. She said anxiously, It really wasn't me. We've been together for so many years. Don't you understand my character? How could I do something to hurt Shihao? Zhang Ruolin snorted. Who else knows the inside story so well besides you? Moreover, once Mei Wei's matter is exposed, the only person who will benefit from it is you. I want you to clarify this matter quickly and stop hurting Shihao and Mei Wei. Yisiki knew that Zhang Ruolin was a stubborn person. As long as she had decided on something, no one could change her mind. She gritted her teeth and said in a low voice, Madam Zhang, I'll say it one last time. I really didn't do it. Instead of biting me and not letting go, why don't you hurry up and find the real mastermind? Hello? I'm so angry. How dare you hang up on me? Zhang Ruolin was so angry that her whole body was trembling. Mei Wei appeared by her side at the right time and comforted her. Auntie Zhang, maybe we've really wronged Sister Siki. Zhang Ruolin said angrily, Other than her, I can't think of anyone else. On the other side, Yisiki felt extremely wronged. She bit her lip hard and quickly walked out of the hotel. Suddenly, a hand grabbed her wrist from behind. She didn't look back. She lowered her head and suppressed her anger in her voice. Let go. No matter who it was, she only wanted to give them these 2 words. Xiao Tianxing's voice came from behind her. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Where do you want to go? Yisiki's body stiffened. She didn't expect him to appear. I have something to do. I'm going out. Her vision blurred and Xiao Tianxing appeared in front of her. There was a faint smile on his handsome face. What are you going out for? Yisiki pursed her lips. Something bad happened and I need to deal with it. I'm taking a leave of absence today. Please approve it, President. Xiao Tianxing's smile froze. His dark eyes stared straight at her. Is it because of that post that you're worried that your husband will be misunderstood, so you're rushing to the hospital to clarify things for him? Yisiki was slightly stunned. Then she understood. Now that this matter had caused a stir, it wasn't strange for him to know about it. She answered honestly, Yes, I need to go to the hospital. Are you an idiot? Xiao Tianxing's expression suddenly became fierce. He raised his hand and knocked her head. He said fiercely, Lin Shihao's mother has already determined that you're the mastermind. If you rush to the hospital to clarify things now, you might be used by someone with ulterior motives and cause more misunderstandings. They might think that this is a case of revenge by an abandoned wife. Yisiki looked at him seriously. Even if people misunderstand, I don't care. I can't just watch him get into trouble. Xiao Tianxing's eyes narrowed. He clenched his fists tightly. After a while, the corners of his lips turned up. He sneered. Looks like you really love him. Even if he hurt you so deeply, you still can't forget him. Actually, I've never forgotten him. These words were on the tip of Yisiki's tongue, but she swallowed them in the end. She said, Tianxing, thank you for reminding me. However, I still have to go and find him. She didn't know what situation Lin Shihao was in right now. She was very nervous and uneasy. She could only feel at ease after confirming that he was fine. Lin Shihao's reputation had plummeted. In the past, patients would line up a few days in advance just to see him. Now, his office was deserted. He had been labeled as someone who took advantage of female patients. How could anyone still be willing to see him? No matter where he went, he would receive strange looks from everyone. There were also people who pointed at him, whispered, and questioned his character. The matter was getting out of hand. Bai Jiyao couldn't protect Lin Shihao anymore. As the director, he had to answer to the hospital's board of directors. The chairman, Chang Wentao, was in his 60s. He used to be the secretary of the county party committee. He was an upright person who handled matters strictly. He had always paid attention to improving the hospital's work style. Therefore, after Lin Shihao's matter was exposed, he took it very seriously and planned to use this opportunity to rectify the hospital's work style. When Yi Siki rushed to the hospital, the board of directors was in the middle of a meeting to discuss Lin Shihao's matter. As the parties involved, Lin Shihao and Bai Meiwei were also called to the meeting. The board of directors was made up of 9 directors, and Bai Jiyao was one of them. Including Lin Shihao and Bai Meiwei, there were a total of 11 people present. Chang Wentao sat at the head of the table with a serious expression. His sharp gaze fell on Lin Shihao as he said in a deep voice, "Dr. Lin, someone exposed online that you had an extramarital affair with Dr. Bai and sexually harassed female patients. What's your explanation for this?" Lin Shihao was expressionless as he said slowly, "What happened between Dr. Bai and me is a private matter. There's no need to explain it to the board of directors. As for the accusation of sexual harassment, it's purely slander. I've never done anything that goes against professional ethics." Cheng Wentao's face sank. "The matter between you and Dr. Bai has gone beyond the scope of a private matter. Due to your special status, this kind of scandal has caused a huge negative impact on our hospital's reputation. Today, in front of the board of directors, you must give a reasonable explanation." Lin Shihao's gaze was cold as he said indifferently, "There's nothing to explain. The matter between Dr. Bai and me is my fault. I'm willing to bear the legal responsibility. As for sexual harassment, it's purely slander. I'm very sorry for damaging the hospital's reputation. I'm willing to take the blame and resign." "No, you can't resign." The door to the conference room suddenly opened and a hurried voice sounded. Everyone looked up and saw a short-haired woman standing at the door. She was dressed in professional attire and her face was flushed from exercising. Her mouth was slightly open and she was panting heavily. She looked like she had run over in a hurry. Lin Shihao's eyes narrowed. "Siki, what was she doing here?" Seeing Yi Siki close the door and walk into the conference room, a flash of hatred quickly flashed across Bai Meiwei's eyes. Chang Wentao frowned and said in a displeased tone, "Who are you?" Yi Siki walked to the front of the conference table and bowed politely. "Everyone, I'm very sorry to interrupt your meeting. My name is Yi Siki. I'm Lin Shihao's ex-wife." Lin Shihao's body stiffened when he heard the word, ex-wife. His cold gaze immediately locked onto Yi Siki. What was she trying to do? Cheng Wentao's expression softened. "Madam Yi, what brings you here?" Yi Siki glanced at the cards on the table in front of him and smiled. "Hello, Chairman. I'm here to clarify some matters and clear Lin Shihao's name. Please give me a chance." Cheng Wentao nodded. "Go ahead." Yi Siki glanced at Lin Shihao and then looked around. She smiled and said, "Lin Shihao and I divorced a year ago. He and Dr. Bai only started dating after our divorce, so there's no such thing as an affair." Lin Shihao suddenly clenched his fists. His deep eyes were like a dangerous whirlpool that seemed to suck her whole body in. The deputy director of the obstetrics and gynecology department, Li Donghao, was also a director. His expression was calm and there was a probing look in his eyes. He said slowly, "Madam Yi, did you really divorce a year ago? Why do I always see you delivering lunch to Dr. Lin? Also, it seems like you've always been living together, right?" Ad. Hongcha 866. Chapter 441. Yi Siki smiled awkwardly. "It's embarrassing to talk about this. I've always been a housewife with no source of income. After the divorce, I couldn't support myself and my daughter. Moreover, we didn't want our daughter to get hurt, so we kept the divorce a secret from her. So, I temporarily stayed at my ex-husband's house. After I found a job and had a source of income, I moved out of his house." A shrewd-looking middle-aged man said, "It sounds reasonable, but you don't mind showing us the divorce certificate, right?" Yi Siki's expression froze. Just as she was about to say something to get away with it, she heard a loud bang. Lin Shihao slammed the table and stood up abruptly. His face was ashen as he glared at her fiercely. "Enough, stop lying." Everyone was stunned. Yi Siki's heart tightened. She glared at him angrily. "Lin Shihao, shut up. I'm telling the truth." "The truth?" Lin Shihao sneered. He slowly looked around and saw all the directors looking at him. He said coldly, "The truth is that I cheated on you. Yi Siki and I haven't divorced yet, and we won't get a divorce in the future. There's no need for this meeting to continue. I'll take full responsibility and resign from all my positions. I won't bring shame to the hospital. Sorry, I'll take my leave first." With that, he grabbed Yi Siki's wrist and dragged her towards the door. "Let go of me." Siki was extremely anxious. As she was forced to walk out, she turned her head and shouted, "Chairman, don't listen to him. He's just saying things out of anger." Ugh. Lin Shihao suddenly reached out and covered her mouth. He quickly dragged her out of the meeting room. With a bang, the door to the meeting room closed. Everyone stared at the door in a daze. Cheng Wentao reacted quickly. He coughed and said, "Dr. Lin doesn't admit to the accusation of sexual harassment. It's very likely that someone is deliberately defaming him. I think we should investigate this person seriously and find out the truth." Someone asked, "Then what about Dr. Lin and Dr. Bai?" Li Donghao said, "Since Dr. Lin has admitted his mistake and is willing to take responsibility, I think we should respect his wishes." Bai Jiyao frowned. He wanted to say a few words for Lin Shihao, but when he thought that his daughter was also involved in this matter, he couldn't say anything, so he dismissed the idea. The vice president said, "Dr. Lin is the backbone of our hospital. If she is fired because of this, it seems a little too much. I agree with the chairman's opinion. Let's find out the truth first before we punish Dr. Lin." In the conference room, everyone was discussing how to deal with this matter. Lin Shihao had already dragged Yi Siki into his office. Lin Shihao's handsome face was covered with a layer of frost, and his sharp eyes stared at her. "Why did you lie? Do you really want a divorce that badly?" Yi Siki was almost angered to death by him. Her red lips trembled as she said angrily, "Why are you stopping me? He was clearly about to succeed. I just don't want you to be fired. Is that wrong?" He held her shoulders forcefully and shouted at her, "You stupid woman, when will you understand that power, money, and reputation are not important? The only thing that matters is you. I just don't want to lose you." She rarely saw him roar so loudly without caring about his image. The veins on his forehead were throbbing, indicating that he was extremely furious. However, she did not feel afraid. The anger in her heart had miraculously disappeared, leaving only warmth in her heart. She stared into his eyes and asked seriously, "Shihao, do you know what you're doing?" "Of course I know. Those empty things can't be compared to you at all." His expression was solemn, as if he was making an oath. He said slowly, "Siki, if I'm sentenced, will you wait for me?" She felt a lump in her throat and answered solemnly, "I will." He pulled her into his arms and hugged her tightly. "Your words are enough. Honey, don't try to push me away anymore. Let's face it together." She was silent for a moment. "Okay." He was extremely emotional and hugged her even tighter. "Let's go home tonight." "Forget it. Let's go home tomorrow." He suddenly remembered that Bai Mei Wei and his mother were still living in his house. She said softly, "Shihao, although I'm willing to wait for you and face it with you, I don't want to go home for the time being." That house was no longer their home. There was another woman living there, and that woman was pregnant with his child. She really didn't want to face that. His body stiffened. After a moment of silence he said, "Okay, we won't go home." As long as she didn't insist on a divorce, it was fine. After a while, Yi Siki said, "Shihao, I suspect that someone is deliberately trying to harm you behind your back. Did you offend someone?" Lin Shihao's deep eyes moved slightly. "I've seen those photos. They were basically taken in the hospital. I suspect that the person who posted the post is hiding in our hospital. I plan to get someone to help check his IP address." Yi Siki's mind worked quickly. She suddenly thought of something and smiled. "I know a computer expert. Leave this to me." He looked at her suspiciously. "Who is it?" She beamed. "Xiao Bao. Although he's young, I heard from Xia that he's a computer expert." Although he was a little skeptical of Xiao Bao's ability, he didn't want to dampen his wife's enthusiasm. He smiled. "Okay, I'll leave this to my wife." Lin Shihao's incident caused an uproar and even appeared in the newspapers. Xia Dong had always paid attention to current affairs, so naturally, She didn't miss this piece of news. When she was having breakfast with Bailey Han, she was a little absent-minded. She wondered if she should call Siki and ask about the situation. Bailey Han saw that his wife was in a daze. She was poking at the ham with a fork. The corners of his lips curled up. He brought her plate in front of him. As he helped her cut the ham, he asked, "Honey, what are you thinking about? The ham is about to be poked into a sieve by you." Xiaodong suddenly came back to her senses. She looked down at the plate. Where's the plate?" Bailey Han couldn't help but laugh. His wife looked so cute when she was in a daze. Xiaodong saw that he had placed the plate with the ham in front of her again. She blushed and snorted awkwardly. "Who told you to steal my plate?" "Okay, it's my fault. I'll definitely report it to you in the future." Bailey Han laughed happily. Xiaodong raised her eyebrows and smiled. She drank a mouthful of milk and said, "Hubby, did you read today's newspaper?" Bailey Han grunted. "Are you going to talk about Lin Shihao?" He had already guessed that her absent-mindedness during breakfast had something to do with Lin Shihao's report. Xiaodong nodded and said gloomily, "Yeah, Lin Shihao definitely wouldn't sexually harass a female patient. Also, his relationship with Bai Mei Wei isn't as bad as the article said. I think someone is deliberately framing him." "You want to help him?" He pulled out a tissue and wiped the milk foam from the corner of her lips. "Yeah. Although he hurt Siki and made me angry, he's still my friend. I can't just stand by and watch him get framed. Let's help him and also help Siki. Okay, hubby?" She grinned and smiled sweetly. She looked so obsequious. Bailey Han couldn't help but laugh. He stared at her with a burning gaze. "Okay, I can help him. But how are you going to thank me?" Xiaodong thought of something and blushed. She whispered in his ear, "At most, I'll agree to wear that." His lips curled into a devilish smile. "What?" She was annoyed and embarrassed. She pinched his waist. "You know what I'm talking about. Are you pretending not to understand?" He chuckled softly and quickly kissed her cheek. He lowered his voice and said, "Okay, deal. Wifey, I'm looking forward to your sexy lingerie." He deliberately said those words word by word in her ear. His warm breath blew on her skin. She couldn't help but tremble slightly. She actually felt a little thirsty. She quickly pushed him away. Her cheeks were burning as she whispered, "Be careful of your image." Although there were only the two of them in the dining room, their family could appear at any time. That afternoon, Yi Siki called. Just as she was about to ask Xiao Bao for help, Xiaodong interrupted her. "Yezi, I don't need you to tell me. I've already asked Ahan to help me track down the person who posted the article." Yi Siki was very grateful. "Then I'm really grateful to your husband. When this matter is settled, I'll treat you to a meal." Xiaodong teased. "You don't have to thank my husband. Just thank me because I've already promised to give him a thank you gift. He's so petty now. As long as I ask him for help, he'll definitely ask me for something in return." Yi Siki couldn't help but laugh. "No way. Let me guess. Don't tell me he wants you to repay him with your body." Xiaodong was a little embarrassed. She deliberately laughed mischievously. "Since you know so much, it seems like your old Lin has also blackmailed you before." "I was just guessing. It was really just a guess." Hey. I can already tell that someone is feeling guilty. Hurry up and admit it." Yi Siki's cheeks were burning hot. She lowered her voice and said, "Stop fooling around. He's here." Lin Shihao was sitting right beside her. He could hear their conversation. Xiaodong was stunned at first. Then she burst into laughter. She deliberately raised her voice and said, "Ask old Lin to sit further away. We good sisters still have some private things to talk about." Lin Shihao obviously heard what Xiaodong said over the phone. His handsome face looked a little awkward. He stood up and said, "Honey, I'll go buy some drinks." He didn't deliberately lower his voice. Xiaodong naturally heard it too. She sighed over the phone. "Your old Lin is really a good person. How are you guys doing now?" Yi Siki heard Lin Shihao close the door. She smiled and said, "Didn't I move out of my house? In the end, he also moved to the apartment above my apartment. Now he's freeloading at my house every day. He's just like a child. He won't leave." Tell me, why didn't I realize that he was such a rascal before? Welfare, Hongcha 866. Chapter 442. Xia Dong imagined Lin Shihao acting shamelessly and couldn't help but laugh out loud. After laughing, she said seriously, Yezi, old Lin did this because he loves you. You should try to start over. Don't be in a hurry to get a divorce. Yeah, I know. I already told him that I won't get a divorce, but I don't want to go back for the time being. Yi Siki sighed. Bai Meiwei's fighting spirit is really strong. She actually moved into my house in order to cultivate her relationship with old Lin. Sometimes I really wonder if such a scheming woman would get drunk and have sex with someone else. Also, when I called old Lin that night, she said that old Lin was drunk and unconscious, but her voice sounded very sober. If old Lin was really unconscious, how could he have forced himself on her? Xia Dong frowned. I also suspect that she seduced old Lin on purpose and then pushed all the blame onto him. It's a pity that only the two of them know what happened that night. That might not be the case. Xia Dong suddenly thought of something and her eyes lit up. Do you still remember which hotel they were at for the seminar that night? Most hotels have surveillance cameras. Let's check the hotel surveillance footage. Maybe we can find some clues. Yi Siki's heart raced when she heard what she said. If they could really prove that Bai Meiwei seduced old Lin on purpose, then old Lin's rape charge could not be established. She said hurriedly, I still remember that it was at the Hanting Hotel. At the time, Bai Meiwei said that she and old Lin were drunk and hired a designated driver to send them home. Then, they actually stayed at the hotel for the night. Xia Dong felt more and more that Lin Shihao might have fallen into Bai Meiwei's trap. She snorted and said, This Bai Meiwei has been lying from the beginning. You were right to suspect her. Yezi, don't worry. I will definitely find a way to find out the truth. Xia, I really don't know how to thank you. We're good sisters. There's no need to be so polite. It was a cold day, but Yi Siki felt warm inside. The board of directors of the hospital decided to suspend Lin Shihao temporarily. He would be dealt with after the hospital found out whether he had committed any sexual harassment. During his suspension, Bai Jiyao kept pressuring him to get a divorce as soon as possible so that he could get a marriage certificate with Bai Meiwei as soon as possible. However, Lin Shihao remained unmoved and bluntly said, I'm willing to bear all the legal responsibilities, but I will never divorce my wife. Bai Jiao's hair had turned white by quite a bit. He really wanted to sue him in court, but Bai Meiwei begged him bitterly, asking him to give Lin Shihao a little more time. Bai Meiwei was already prepared to cut off all means of retreat. She wanted to use the final blow to win happiness for herself. Meiwei, didn't I tell you not to do the housework? What if you get tired? Zhang Rulin came back from outside and saw Bai Meiwei busy in the kitchen. She hurried over to help. Bai Meiwei smiled gently. Auntie, I'm not tired. I just want to make some soup and send it to Shihao. He lives alone outside and has no one to take care of him. I'm very worried about him. I didn't expect you to care about him so much. Auntie is very happy. Meiwei, I'll go with you. Shihao has moved out for so long, but I haven't been to his place yet. Zhang Rulin was full of smiles as she helped her take the pot of soup off the gas stove. Bai Meiwei covered her mouth and laughed. Even if you didn't say it, I would still invite you to go with me. Zhang Rulin drove while Bai Meiwei sat in the front passenger seat. In addition to making ginseng chicken soup, they also bought some nutritional products and fruits for Lin Shihao. The car stopped in the neighborhood. Bai Meiwei glanced at the surrounding residential buildings and said, Auntie, did Shihao tell you which floor he lives on? He only said that he lives on the 6th floor. I don't know which room. When Zhang Rulin asked Lin Shihao refused to tell her the room number. It was probably to prevent them from looking for trouble again. Bai Meiwei smiled and said, It's okay. After we go upstairs, we can knock on the door and ask. She opened the back door and planned to take out the things in the back seat. Zhang Rulin hurriedly said, Meiwei, don't move. I'll do it. Be careful not to tire the child. Auntie, it's okay. These bags are very light. After Bai Meiwei took out the bags, Zhang Rulin immediately snatched them from her hands and handed the lightest thermos to her. The two of them had just walked to the elevator when Bai Meiwei suddenly stopped. Oh, I left my phone in the car. Zhang Rulan thought for a moment and said, I'll go get it. Mei Wei, you take these things up the elevator first. That's not good. Forget it. The phone is in the car anyway. It won't be lost. What if you miss an important call? You go up first. I'll make a trip. I'll be back soon. Zhang Rulan was actually worried that if Bai Jiao contacted her to talk about Lin Shihao and she missed the call, then it would be troublesome. Okay then. Auntie. Sorry to trouble you. You don't have to be so polite. Here, the bags are for you. Be careful. Okay, Auntie. I know. Please be careful. Bai Mei Wei held the bags tightly as she watched Zhang Rulan's back disappear down the corridor. Her lips curled into a strange smile. After entering the elevator, she did not press the button for the 6th floor. Instead, she pressed 5. Room 501 was where Yi Siki lived. Bai Mei Wei had specially hired a private investigator to find out Yi Siki's address. From the private investigator, she found out that she was resting at home at this very moment. As for Lin Shihao, he was originally lazing around in room 501. However, Bai Jiao had called him half an hour ago and said that he had something to talk to him about, so he was summoned away. So, Yi Siki and her daughter were the only ones left in the house. Yi Siki heard the doorbell ring. She frowned when she saw Bai Mei Wei through the peephole. She didn't know why she was here. After hesitating for a moment, she still opened the door. Miss Bai, why are you here? Is something the matter? Bai Mei Wei sized her up quietly. She was wearing a red woolen dress. Her figure was slim and her face was rosy. She looked like a happy woman who was nourished by love. It was impossible to imagine that she was an abandoned woman who was pitied by everyone on the internet. Bai Mei Wei smiled and said, Auntie and I came to visit Shihao and realized that he wasn't home. I guessed that he might be at your house, so I took the liberty to ask. Yi Siki's voice was slightly cold. How did you know that Shihao lives above my house? Bai Mei Wei stroked the long hair by her ear and smiled sweetly. It was Shihao who told me. He also said that he treats you as a cook and goes to your house to eat every day. It's convenient and convenient. Thank you very much for taking care of him during this period, Miss Yi. Yi Siki's mouth twitched. Cook. If she didn't trust Shihao, she would have been deceived by Mei Wei's words. She laughed coldly. Miss Bai, did you come here today to sow discord between my husband and me? Bai Mei Wei widened her eyes in shock and looked at her in disbelief. Miss Yi, why would you come up with such a ridiculous idea? I'm just speaking the truth. I really don't mean to sow discord between the two of you. Yi Siki frowned impatiently. Bai Mei Wei, I'm not interested in watching you put on an act. If you have something to say, then say it quickly. If there's nothing else, please disappear from my house immediately. I really don't want to see you. Bai Mei Wei exclaimed exaggeratedly, Miss Yi, why are your words so vulgar? You sound like a lowly person. Yi Siki laughed mockingly. Then I'm really sorry. My patience and upbringing are reserved for people of noble character. When faced with a lowly person, of course I don't need to be courteous with her. Bai Mei Wei's expression changed slightly. A small flame of anger ignited in her eyes. She gritted her teeth and said, Yi Siki, don't be too smug. Do you think that you can defeat me just because you deliberately exposed my relationship with Shihao? Let me tell you, don't be delusional. Yi Siki couldn't be bothered to argue with her. She shook her head and looked at her with pity. Bai Mei Wei, I really think that you should check your brain. You're the one who's scheming and harboring evil intentions. Do you think that others are as shameless as you? You, Bai Mei Wei's long, shapely eyebrows shot up. Just as she was about to fly into a rage, she suddenly heard the sound of the elevator door opening from upstairs. I really didn't mean to ruin your relationship with Senior on purpose. I just wanted to give the child in my stomach a home. Sister Siki, I've let you down. All of this has nothing to do with Senior. I beg you, please let him go. Don't harm him anymore. Yi Siki's eyes were filled with tears as she looked at Bai Mei Wei. Bai Mei Wei's eyes were filled with tears as she said, Sister Siki, please forgive me. I didn't mean to ruin your relationship with Senior. Don't let him go. Bai Mei Wei, are you crazy? Yi Siki saw her fake sobbing and wished she could immediately fling her hands away. However, she didn't forget that Bai Mei Wei was pregnant. She only used some strength to try and pry her hands away. I'm not crazy, Sister Siki. I know that you were the one who posted those slanderous comments about Senior online. I beg you, if there's anything, just come at me. Don't hurt Senior anymore. Bai Mei Wei's grip tightened and Yi Siki was extremely frustrated. Her tone also became irritable. Bai Mei Wei, let go of me. I've already said that I didn't do those things. Don't pester me anymore. Sister Siki, I won't pester you anymore. Ah. Bai Mei Wei suddenly let go of Yi Siki's hands and let out a shrill scream. Her body staggered and fell down the stairs. Thump. 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 Like a rolling snowball, Bai Mei Wei rolled down the stairs while screaming. Yi Siki was immediately stunned. Before she could react, a panic-stricken figure had already rushed down the stairs and shouted anxiously, Mei Wei, are you okay? It was Zhang Ruolin. She ran down the stairs in a panic and shouted angrily at Yi Siki, who was stunned on the spot. Yi Siki, I didn't expect you to be so heartless as to hurt Mei Wei. Add, Song Shu 566. Chapter 443. Yi Siki snapped out of her daze and shouted, I didn't. She fell on her own. Bai Mei Wei lay in the corridor, her body curled up. Her face was pale and full of pain. She hugged her stomach tightly and said in agony, It hurts, my stomach hurts. Save my child. Zhang Ruolin was furious. I won't argue with you for now. Saving a life is more important. What are you still standing here for? Hurry up and call an ambulance. Yi Siki held her breath. She finally understood that she had been tricked by Mei Wei. She really wanted to slam the door and leave them there, but if she did that, she would be accused of harming Bai Mei Wei. She wasn't that stupid. She took a deep breath and calmed herself down. She ran into the room and immediately called the ambulance. After Zhang Ruolin yelled at Yi Siki, she immediately rushed to Bai Mei Wei's side and comforted her anxiously. Mei Wei, it's okay. You and the child will be fine. Don't worry, the ambulance will be here soon. Bai Mei Wei was in so much pain that tears welled up in her eyes. She covered her stomach with one hand and grabbed Zhang Ruolin's wrist with the other. Auntie, it's too late. The ambulance will take at least 20 minutes to get here. I beg you, take me to the hospital. I must save the child. Okay. I'll take you to the hospital right away. Zhang Ruolin was so anxious that her hands were trembling. She wanted to help Bai Mei Wei up from the ground, but her physical strength was limited. If she were to accidentally trip Bai Mei Wei down the stairs, wouldn't that make things worse? Thinking of this, she looked up and shouted at Yi Siki's door, Yi Siki, hurry up and come out. Yi Siki had just hung up the ambulance when she heard Zhang Ruolin's shout. She immediately rushed out of the room. Zhang Ruolin ordered her without hesitation, hurry up and come down. Help me take Mei Wei to the hospital. I've already called an ambulance. The ambulance is too slow. Do you want to kill the child in Mei Wei's stomach? Yi Siki felt helpless. Saving a life was like putting out a fire. She didn't have time to change her clothes and shoes, nor did she have time to take out her phone and wallet. She hurriedly locked the door and ran downstairs to help Zhang Ruolin support Bai Mei Wei, who was groaning in pain, into the elevator. You drive. I'll take care of Mei Wei from the back. Zhang Ruolin handed the car keys to Yi Siki, then helped Bai Mei Wei into the back seat. Yi Siki used the GPS to search for the nearest hospital and drove there at top speed. Bai Mei Wei leaned into Zhang Ruolin's arms, beads of sweat rolling down her forehead. Her pale face was contorted in pain, and she kept saying, It hurts. Zhang Ruolin's heart ached terribly. She kept comforting her and wiping away her sweat. Then she anxiously shouted at Yi Siki, Drive faster. Yi Siki saw Zhang Ruolin's anxious expression through the rearview mirror. She bit her lip and tried her best to suppress the complicated emotions in her heart. The car stopped at the entrance of the hospital, and the medical staff immediately carried Bai Mei Wei into the emergency room on a stretcher. A female obstetrician and a nurse wanted to give her emergency treatment, but Bai Mei Wei stopped them and said with a sad face, Doctor, there's no need to save me. My child is gone. The female doctor's surname was Zheng. She said patiently, Madam, this is just your guess. Let me examine you first. No, there's no need. I'm an obstetrician and gynecologist myself. I'm very clear about this. Bai Meiwei's pale face looked miserable. On the way to the hospital, I was already sure that the child was gone. I just didn't want my future mother-in-law to be sad, so I didn't say anything. Nurse miss, I'd like to have a few words with Dr. Zhang in private. Can you please leave for a moment? The nurse turned to look at Dr. Zhang, who nodded. Little Wu, you can leave first. After the nurse left, Bai Meiwei said, Dr. Zhang, I'll just lie here and rest for a while. There's no need for any examination. Please tell my family that my child is gone. Dr. Zhang said, Madam, even if the child is gone, I'll still perform the surgery on you and save the child. No, I don't need that. You just have to tell my family that my child is gone. I'll take care of the rest myself. This is against the rules. If anything happens to you, I'll have to bear the responsibility. Dr. Zhang, please help me with this. I'll be very grateful. Bai Meiwei was already prepared. She took out a check from her pocket and extended it to the doctor. In the hospital, it was not uncommon to secretly receive red packets from patients. This Dr. Zhang had also received red packets from many people. When she saw the 5-digit sum on the check, she was suddenly tempted. She thought for a moment and said, Are you sure your body is fine? Bai Meiwei saw the hesitation in her eyes and smiled. You just have to pass the message. I'll take care of the rest. 10 minutes later, Dr. Zhang walked out of the emergency room. Zhang Ruolin immediately went up to him and asked nervously, Doctor, is the child safe? Dr. Zhang shook his head. I'm very sorry. The child is gone. The patient has just undergone surgery and is very weak. When you go in, be quiet. Don't disturb her. Zhang Ruolin staggered back and said in a daze, The child is gone? My grandson is gone? Yi Siki's feelings were very complicated. She should be happy that the child in Bai Meiwei's stomach was gone, but she was not happy at all because she knew that Bai Meiwei had sacrificed her own child in order to frame her. She felt sad for the child and indignant at Bai Meiwei's actions. Zhang Ruolin was very sad. She had great expectations for this grandson of hers, but in the end, he was gone. She found it hard to accept this reality. Yi Siki could not bear to see her sad appearance. She walked forward and wanted to comfort her, but just as she approached, she suddenly reached out and slapped Yi Siki hard on the face. She said angrily, It's all your fault. It's all your fault. It's not enough that you harmed my son, but now you want to harm my grandson. Yi Siki, how can you be so vicious? Her slap was so hard that Yi Siki's head was tilted to the side. There were obvious fingerprints on her fair cheeks. She stared in disbelief at the woman she had called mother for 8 years. Her eyes were filled with pain. I really didn't do it. We've been together for 8 years, but you don't believe me at all. Zhang Ruolin was furious. She pointed at Yi Siki's nose and said angrily, I believe my eyes and ears. I saw you push Meiwei down the stairs and caused her to lose her child. Yi Siki's chest rose and fell rapidly. She knew that it was useless for her to say anything now. Zhang Ruolin had already determined that she was the murderer. It wasn't just Zhang Ruolin. The other people in the corridor were also staring at her strangely. Those gazes were filled with malice and condemnation. It made her feel a chill in her heart. 2 young girls were very close to them. One of them, a short-haired girl, whispered to her companion, Yi Siki? Bai Meiwei? Lanlan, don't you think these 2 names are very familiar? Yeah, they're very familiar. I think they're that. Oh right, they're the wife and mistress of that perverted gynecologist Lin Shihao who went viral on the internet. What do you mean? Lin Shihao's wife deliberately caused the death of his mistress's child? That seems to be the case. Looks like Yi Siki isn't as pitiful and innocent as the internet says. Could she be the one who posted that post? Why would she do that? The 2 girls were chatting animatedly when a pregnant mother-to-be beside them interrupted. Of course it's to gain everyone's sympathy. This is an abandoned wife's revenge on a mistress and a scumbag. Wow, that's so exciting. Yi Siki, well done. I support you. Shoo, don't shout so loudly. Although Yi Siki couldn't hear what they were saying, she could tell from their eyes that they were discussing her. She then looked at the furious Zhang Ruolin and clenched her fists. Calmly she said word by word, Madam Zhang, I'll say it for the last time. I've never done anything to hurt Shihao and Bai Mei Wei. Bai Mei Wei rolled down the stairs on her own. After saying this, she turned around arrogantly. Her back was very straight, and she ignored the curious gazes of the people around her. She walked away arrogantly, maintaining her dignity, and left this place that made her feel so humiliated. Soon, the scene at the hospital was exposed online. Some busybodies claimed that the mastermind was Yi Siki. In order to get revenge, she framed her own husband for sexual harassment and even pushed Bai Mei Wei down the stairs, causing her to lose her child. At the beginning, many people had condemned Bai Mei Wei for being despicable and breaking up a family. But now, the direction of the criticism had changed. The target of condemnation was Yi Siki. Everyone said that she was too vicious and would do anything to get revenge. The few voices that supported Yi Siki were also suppressed by the condemnation of her. When Lin Shihao heard this news, he immediately rushed to Siki's house. Siki opened the door and looked at his handsome face. She said calmly, "I didn't push her down the stairs. Do you believe me?" "I believe you." His gaze was deep. It was a simple word, but it made her sniffle. She threw herself into his arms and said in a low voice, "She came to make trouble for me and deliberately rolled down the stairs in front of your mother. Although I don't understand why she would use the child as the price to frame me when the child is so important to her, I'm not lying. She really rolled down the stairs on her own." He hugged her tightly and said gently, "I believe you." Lin Shihao trusted her completely, but Zhang Rulin and the Bai family were unwilling to believe her. They blamed Yi Siki for the loss of Bai Mei Wei's child, especially the Bai family. They felt that their daughter had lost her only child and might not be able to have children in the future. Lin Shihao had to take responsibility. They gave Lin Shihao a deadline of 1 day. If Lin Shihao didn't marry Bai Mei Wei tomorrow, they were determined to take it to court. Come and see. Xinwu 799. Chapter 444. Lin Shihao remained unmoved despite the storm outside. The next day, he drove his daughter to school and his wife to work as usual. On the other hand, Yi Siki couldn't hold it in any longer. She really wanted to call Xiaodong and ask her how the investigation was going, but she couldn't bring it up in front of Lin Shihao. She planned to find an opportunity to call her after arriving at the company. Lin Shihao's car was parked downstairs at the Century Splendid Hotel. Yi Siki wasn't in a hurry to get out of the car. She turned to look at Lin Shihao. "Hubby, why don't I not go to work today and stay at home with you?" Today was the deadline that Bai Jiyao had given them. They might be forced to separate tomorrow. Lin Shihao smiled. "Honey, you can't skip work every other day. Gigai, go to work. I'm very busy today. I don't need you to accompany me." She was surprised. "What are you busy with today?" "I have to buy groceries, cook, clean, and pick up my wife and child. Don't you think I'm very busy?" He looked serious, but there was a smile in his eyes. Her heart ached. He used to be a workaholic, but now he was a house husband. Could he accept such a difference? She forced a smile. "Yes, you're really busy. Can I order some dishes?" He smiled. "Of course. I'm a chef. I can satisfy you with anything you want. I want scrambled eggs with tomatoes." That was his best dish. "Okay." He chuckled, leaned over and kissed her on the cheek. "Hurry to work. I'll pick you up in the afternoon." She kissed him back, then got out of the car. She smiled and waved as she watched him drive away. Yi Siki didn't expect that when she walked to the entrance of the hotel, a group of paparazzi would suddenly surround her. Some of them had cameras in their hands, while others had microphones in their hands. They all asked at once, "Miss Yi, may I ask if you were the one who posted that post? Miss Yi, did your husband really sexually harass you, or did you frame him? Miss Yi, did you push Miss Bai down the stairs and lose her child? Miss Yi." All sorts of sharp questions flooded Yi Siki like a tidal wave. This was the first time she had encountered such a situation. She hurriedly covered her face with her arms. "Please stop taking pictures." However, her voice was quickly drowned out by the questioning. The shutters kept flashing, and those people surrounded her even more tightly. The scene was chaotic. A silver Bentley drove towards the underground parking lot. Xiao Tiansheng was browsing the news on his iPad when he realized that Yi Siki's incident had actually made it to the top of the search rankings. He couldn't help but frown. The assistant driving in the front seat suddenly said, "President, Miss Yi seems to have been besieged by paparazzi." Xiao Tiansheng suddenly looked up and saw the noisy crowd at the entrance of the hotel. In the middle of the crowd, there was a woman with her arms covering her face. It really was Yi Siki. "Stop the car." He threw the iPad on the seat, opened the car door, and strode toward the gate. The assistant hurriedly followed. Yi Siki was besieged by the paparazzi and had no way to fight back. She was about to ask the hotel security team for help when a low magnetic voice suddenly said, "Everyone, please let go of Miss Yi." She instinctively looked up and saw Xiao Tianxing standing less than 5 meters away from them in a suit. His handsome face was cold and his deep eyes were staring at her. "It's the second son of the Xiao group." Someone recognized Xiao Tiansheng and shouted, "Mr. Xiao, may I ask what is your relationship with Miss Yi?" The paparazzi's nose was very sensitive. They immediately sensed that his relationship with Yi Siki was not ordinary. "Miss Yi is my employee, and I have the obligation to protect her. Please don't harass her here. This will have a bad impact on her and our hotel." Xiao Tiancheng said, "Miss Yi is my employee. I have an obligation to protect her. Please don't harass her here." The paparazzi looked at each other. Xiao Tianxing raised his wrist and looked at his watch. His cold gaze fell on Yi Siki. He said calmly, "Miss Yi, there are only 10 minutes left before you have to go to work. Do you want to be late?" "No, I don't. Thank you, President. Please make way." Yi Siki was reminded by him and immediately reacted. She forced her way out of the crowd. Fortunately, the paparazzi did not make things difficult for her because of Xiao Tianxing's presence. Xiao Tianxing glanced at Yi Siki's back as she ran away. He put his hands in his trouser pockets and glanced at the people present. He smiled slightly. "Thank you for giving me some face. My assistant will take everyone's name cards and give everyone a small gift according to the address on your name cards." Xiao Tianxing was indeed someone who had been in the business world for many years. He was very good at using threats and promises. When the assistant heard this, he quickly went forward to collect everyone's name cards. "President Xiao, you are too kind." The paparazzi thanked him. Xiao Tianxing smiled. "It's my pleasure. Actually, I'm a little curious. How did Miss Ye's matter become so big that it even alarmed our friends in the media?" The paparazzi usually followed famous people. It was rare to see them follow ordinary people. Everyone understood this principle. One of the reporters smiled and said, "I received this task from the leader. I heard that someone deliberately leaked the information. Even Miss Ye's company and home address were revealed by that person." Xiao Tianxing raised his eyebrows and smiled. "I see. Do any of you know the identity of the person who leaked the information?" Everyone shook their heads. However, Xiao Tianxing already had a suspect in his mind. Yi Siki changed into her chef's uniform and entered the kitchen. She realized that everyone was looking at her strangely again. It was as if they were trying to determine if she was really a vicious woman like what the internet said. Yi Siki felt helpless. However, she did not intend to explain herself. It was useless to explain to people who did not trust her. As usual, she greeted everyone with a smile. Everyone responded with a smile, but those smiles looked very stiff. At noon, they had lunch at the staff cafeteria. In the past, there were 4 girls who ate with her. Now, only she and Xiao Nan were left. The two of them sat cross-legged by the window with fast food in their hands. Xiao Nan lowered her voice and said, "Sister Siki, I believe that you are a good person." Yi Siki looked up in surprise. Seeing her watery eyes filled with sincerity, she could not help but smile. "Thank you." Xiao Nan grinned brightly. "Sister Siki, no matter what the people online say, don't be discouraged. You are the best woman I know." Yi Siki and Xiao Nan had not known each other for long, but she trusted her wholeheartedly. It would be a lie to say that she was not touched. Yi Siki smiled. "Xiao Nan, you are great too. Thank you. Do you mind if I sit here?" A clear male voice came from above. Yi Siki and Xiao Nan looked up at the same time. They saw Xiao Tianxing standing by the table with a tray in his hands. There was a gentle smile on his handsome face, and he looked very elegant and handsome. Xiao Nan was almost dazzled by his smile. She stammered, "CEO." It was her first time seeing the CEO in the staff cafeteria. After she said that, her little face turned red. Xiao Tianxing smiled and nodded. His gaze fell on Yi Siki. "What's wrong? Am I not welcome?" Yi Siki did not know what he was up to, but when she saw that everyone's eyes were on them, she felt a little uncomfortable. She said politely, "CEO, you must be joking. How could we not welcome you? Please sit." The corners of Xiao Tiancheng's lips curled up. He sat beside her naturally and ate elegantly. Because of his presence, Xiao Nan and Yi Siki became reserved. The two of them ate in silence. He wiped the corners of his mouth elegantly with a napkin and chuckled. "I saw that you were chatting happily just now. Why did you stop talking when I came?" Xiao Nan smiled awkwardly. "CEO, Sister Siki and I were talking about girls' matters." Xiao Tianxing turned to look at Yi Siki with a gentle smile. "Is that so?" Yi Siki did not look at him. She just calmly said, Although Xiao Nan was naive, she was not stupid. Her gaze went back and forth between the two of them. She finally understood that the CEO's sudden appearance seemed to mean that he had something to say to Sister Siki. She quickly lowered her head and ate. After she hurriedly finished eating, she chuckled. "CEO, Sister Siki, I have something to do. I'll leave first. Take your time." "Okay, see you later." Yi Siki watched as Xiao Nan left in a hurry with her tray. She looked at Xiao Tianxing helplessly. "Look at how you scared the little girl. Tell me, why are you looking for me?" Xiao Tianxing took a sip of coffee and raised his eyebrows. "I thought you would thank me first." She remembered that he had helped her out this morning. She smiled. "Thank you," he teased. "I'm not used to you being so obedient." She was speechless. "Why are you so hard to please?" He held back his laughter. "Okay, I won't tease you anymore. Let's talk about something serious. Go ahead. I'm all ears." He stopped smiling and looked serious. "Someone purposely got the paparazzi to cause trouble for you. I'm guessing that the negative comments about you online were also purposely released by that person. Her motive is very simple. She wants to smear your reputation and ruin your reputation." Yi Siki clenched her fists slightly. After a long time, she slowly released them and said calmly, "Besides that, she also wants to force me to divorce Lin Shihao. I think I know who the mastermind is." "By Mei Wei?" This was also a suspect in his heart. She nodded. "At first, I didn't understand why she was willing to use the child to frame me. But when you said that she was the one who got the paparazzi, I suddenly understood. Her motive was to frame me for everything. This way, not only would she be able to clear Shihao's name, but she would also incur the wrath of the Bai family and Jiang Rulin. From there, she would be able to force us to divorce. She's playing a very big game of chess." Xiao Tianxing's slender fingers tapped on the table. There was a slight smile in his deep eyes. "Since you've already guessed it, how do you plan to retaliate?" Welfare, Hongcha 866. Chapter 445. Yi Siki brushed her hair behind her ear and smiled. "I'm waiting." Xiao Tianxing raised his eyebrows. "Waiting?" "Yes, I've already asked Xia to help investigate Bai Meiwei's case. I think we'll have the results soon." Xiao Tianxing was a smart person, so he understood immediately. He smiled and said, "I was going to introduce you to the best lawyer, but it seems like there's no need for that now. With Ahan helping you, there's nothing you can't do." She smiled. "You've helped me a lot too. I don't know how to thank you." When she was in trouble, he always helped her without hesitation, so she was very grateful. He leaned back in his seat leisurely. "I'm your boss at work, but I'm your friend in life. No matter what, I should help you, so you don't have to stand on ceremony with me. If you really want to thank me, let Nyonyo acknowledge me as her godfather." Yi Siki looked at his calm expression and burst out laughing. "You still remember that?" He raised his eyebrows. "I'm serious. Are you willing to do that?" She hesitated. "Well, I really need to discuss this with Shihao. He clutched his heart and looked hurt. I knew you didn't really want to thank me. Yi Siki couldn't stand it anymore. She shook her shoulders. You're so mushy. Xiao Tianqing's expression became more and more bitter, and his tone was similar to that of a resentful woman. You're kicking away your savior, Yi Siki. I really didn't expect you to be such a vicious person. Oh my god, I can't take it anymore. Yi Siki's stomach was churning. She shook off the goosebumps that had appeared all over her body. Hurry up and stop complaining. I agree. I agree. Is that not enough? Xiao Tianqing's expression quickly changed. He sat up straight and said sternly, You said it yourself. I don't care if you threaten or seduce me. You must convince Lin Shihao to acknowledge me as her godfather. Yi Siki held her forehead. Okay. I got it. He was satisfied and let her go. He smiled and said, I suddenly feel so happy after chatting with you. That's because your happiness is built on my pain. Yi Siki could imagine how challenging it would be to convince Lin Shihao. In the CEO's office of Shang Corporation, after Bailey Han finished his lunch with his beloved wife, the two of them snuggled together. Just as they were about to do something intimate, Bailey Han's phone suddenly rang. He picked up the phone impatiently, but when he saw the caller ID, his impatience disappeared and his expression became serious. Bao, how's the investigation going? Young master, we found the video of Bai Meiwei and Lin Shihao from hundreds of surveillance videos. I sent it to your email. Also, we found out the identity of the person who posted it. He's Lin Shihao's colleague, Li Donghao, the deputy director of the obstetrics and gynecology department. Bailey Han smiled. Very good. Bao, go and do something else. After he hung up, Xiaodong asked in confusion. Hubby, why did you ask Bao to investigate the doctor who performed the abortion on Bai Meiwei? Bailey Han reached out and patted her head. He said gently, Honey, let me ask you. If you were pregnant and knew that you couldn't have another child after losing the child, and that the child was your only bargaining chip to marry me, would you sacrifice your child to frame someone else? Xiaodong didn't hesitate. Of course not. In her heart, the child was very important. Bailey Han ruffled her hair. It's a mother's nature to protect her child, but Bai Meiwei gave up the child that was so important to her. I can't help but suspect. You suspect that she wasn't pregnant at all? Xiaodong suddenly realized, and her eyes widened. He smiled. There's another possibility. She lost the child a long time ago, and she used a fake belly to deceive everyone. Didn't you say that Bai Meiwei's uterus was stunted, and that it was very easy for her to miscarry the child? Yes. Xiaodong's blood boiled. She hugged his neck excitedly and kissed him fiercely. Hubby, you're amazing. You're definitely China's Sherlock Holmes. Bailey Han accepted her compliments without hesitation. At the same time, he accepted her passionate kiss. Furthermore, he took the initiative and kissed her lips passionately for a long time. Only when both of them were out of breath did he let go of her. He rested his chin on her neck and said in a husky and magnetic voice, Honey, do you want to watch that video together? She hugged his waist. Yes. He hugged her and stood up from the sofa. He sat behind his desk and let her sit on his lap. Then he turned on his computer and checked the email that Bao had sent him. In the corner of the video there was a date. It was the day Lin Shihao and Bai Meiwei attended the conference. In the video, Bai Meiwei was holding a glass of water in her left hand and standing in a secluded spot. Her right hand felt around in her handbag a few times, and then quickly slid over the rim of the glass. It seemed like she was putting something into the glass. The scene changed. Lin Shihao was sitting on the sofa in the corner of the hall. He leaned against the back of the chair tiredly and held his forehead with one hand. He seemed to be very drunk. He took out his phone and looked like he was about to make a call. Bai Meiwei walked in front of him, bent down, and snatched the phone from his hand. The two of them exchanged a few words. Then, Bai Meiwei fed the glass of water in her hand to Lin Shihao's mouth. He drank the water until there was not a drop left. Then, Bai Meiwei helped Lin Shihao up from the sofa. The two of them had only taken a few steps when Lin Shihao's entire body was paralyzed on Bai Meiwei's shoulder. It was obvious that he had completely lost consciousness. After that, A handsome male waiter helped by Mei Wei send Lin Shihao upstairs. After that, the video ended. Because there were no cameras in the hotel room, it was a violation of the guests' privacy. Xia Dong gritted her teeth hatefully. It's really as we guessed. Lin Shihao was set up by Mei Wei. There's something wrong with the glass of water in her hand. Don't be angry. With this, we can basically prove that Lin Shihao was framed. Bailey Han ruffled her hair. That waiter is also a good witness. Siki said that Bai Jiyao is going to sue Lin Shihao tomorrow. Should we quickly reveal this video to Bai Jiyao and dispel his thoughts? Bailey Han's deep eyes were cold and his lips curved slightly. There's no hurry. Let him sue. If he doesn't, how can we prove to the world that Lin Shihao is innocent? Bai Jiyao wanted to blow the matter up, which was exactly what he wanted. When the time came, the one who would be embarrassed would be Bai Mei Wei. Xia Dong wrapped her arms around his neck and looked up at him. But if we blow the matter up to that extent, it won't be good for Lin Shihao and Siki. Right now, everyone has misunderstood Lin Shihao and Yi Siki. Only through legal means can we prove their innocence. Since we can't prevent rumors from spreading, then we'll just have to guide them and use facts to prove who's right and who's wrong. But you've reminded me that this is a matter between the two of them. They should be the ones making the decision. His slender fingers rested on the keyboard. Honey, what's Yi Siki's email address? I'll send this video to her. After sending the video to Yi Siki, Xia Dong immediately called Yi Siki and briefly explained their findings. Finally, she said, Yezi, discuss with old Lin and see how we can use this evidence. Okay, I got it. Xia, thank you. This evidence proved that Lin Shihao didn't take the initiative to sexually assault Bai Mei Wei. Instead, Bai Mei Wei drugged him. This was very important to Yi Siki. Not only could it prove Lin Shihao's innocence, but it could also untie a knot in her heart. After Yi Siki and Lin Shihao discussed it, they unanimously decided to let Bai Jiyao take it to court. Bai Mei Wei had unscrupulously destroyed their family, so she should pay the price for her actions. Just as they were making this important decision, Lin Shihao suddenly received a call from Tang Chengfeng. Tang Chengfeng said, Shihao, I heard something from my colleague. I think it's very important to you and Siki, so I quickly called you. What is it? Dr. Wang from the Obstetrics and Gynecology Department told me today that Bai Mei Wei once had an abortion at her place. It seems like it was a car accident and the child was lost. Later, Bai Mei Wei chatted with Dr. Wang for a long time and asked her to help keep the secret. She even wanted to bribe Dr. Wang with money, but Dr. Wang refused. Dr. Wang abided by professional ethics and didn't tell anyone about this until today. She accidentally saw the news about Siki, saying that Siki caused the death of Bai Mei Wei's child. She couldn't help but reveal this to me. Lin Shihao suddenly clenched his phone. After the shock, he felt a deep hatred for Bai Mei Wei. This woman actually had a fake belly and hid it from them for so long. She even wanted to take the opportunity to hurt Siki. She was simply too hateful. He tried his best to suppress the churning emotions in his heart and said slowly, Chengfeng, thank you for telling me this. After ending the call, Lin Shihao told Siki about Bai Mei Wei's miscarriage. Then he said, Honey, I changed my mind. Let's not take it to court. I'm worried that it will implicate Chengfeng. Implicate Chengfeng? What do you mean? Lin Shihao smiled bitterly. After you went to Tibet, I tricked Bai Mei Wei into going to Chengfeng's place. I planned to get him to help me forcibly abort the child in Bai Mei Wei's belly. In the end, Bai Mei Wei found out. She took a scalpel and threatened Chengfeng to let her go. If this matter goes to court, I'm worried that Bai Mei Wei will expose this matter. Chengfeng is innocent. I can't implicate him. Lin Shihao felt a wave of fear. If Tang Chengfeng hadn't suddenly called him, he would have almost forgotten about this matter. If he really implicated his good friend because of this, he would never be able to forgive himself. However, Yi Siki saw another layer of this matter through this matter. In order to win her back, Lin Shihao even abandoned the professional ethics that he was so proud of. This made her feel both touched and touched. Welfare, Hongcha 866. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.